Rohit, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Mr. Sherry ji, can you hear me? Mr. Rajiv Sherry, can you hear me?
Mute. Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, I was on mute for a moment.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Mr. Collins.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mukherjee.
So, Mr. Yatish Kumar has also joined. Good afternoon, Yatish Kumar ji. Good afternoon, Rohit.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. So, Pahuja ji, can you hear us clearly? Audio is clear?
Yeah, it's clear. It's clear.
Back now.
Yeah. Mr. Sherry, good afternoon. Very, very good afternoon.
Hi, Mr. Vijay Sharma. How are you?
Good, good. Yatish ji, namaskar. Yatish ji, unable to see you.
Hello. Sharma ji, कुछ बोल रहे थे?
I said hello to Yatish ji. Then I said we are not able to see him.
Yeah, Yatish ji he has to put on his camera. Yes.
Yeah, he is also an old friend.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. In fact, Yatish ji, it was Mr. Vijay Sharma who had. Yatish ji, namaskar.
Namaskar. How are you? Nirmalaya, how are you?
I'm fine, sir. In fact, I was just about to mention that it was Mr. Vijay Sharma who actually said you must bring Mr. Yatish Kumar ji because I have found him a wonderful person to be there on this panel.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Sharma, how are you?
गुड. मैं यतीश जी के लिए एक लाइन बोलना चाहता हूं जो मेरा पहला इनके साथ इनके दफ्तर के अंदर जो मुलाकात हुई थी. सॉरी टिम, I found a corporate CEO in a public sector. It was such a experience. जो इन्होंने मुझे presentations दिखाई थी, I was with my team. I nudged my team कि सीखो कि presentation कैसे दी जाती हैं. So that was my first impression about you, Mr. Yatish Kumar. It was very nice. Well done.
Hello, everyone. Please to listen all good words from Wizard, basically.
So,
my hello to everyone.
Yatish Kumar ji, this is what we can claim that the face of public sector of India is changing because of CEOs like you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good to hear.
I mean,
actually, it's a requirement of time. Unless if you will not change, then you will be finished. It's a matter of survival rather.
Yeah, but you know, let me also quote one more example. There used to be a chairman of Vizag Steel Plant, CMD, Mr. Sagar Rao. So, you know, my relation with him began when he was GM Steel. So I used to meet him when he was GM Steel, and Mr. Subrata Mitra will also accept that during the days he was GM Steel, when I started interacting and, you know, I saw his presentations and how he would give those presentations, I had the same impression what you had about Vijay Sharma ji, about Yatish Kumar ji. First time I came across a chair, you know, would be chairman, then he was GM, who later became chairman of Vizag Steel Plant, who was a corporate CEO through and through.
Yes, hardly you find such dynamic person.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, and for example, if you you know, interact with CMD Mekon, with the present CMD of Mekon,
yes,
he's of the same material.
Yes.
Though Mekon is a public sector company again, but
I believe in a different way that God has chosen you, and you are only means. So somebody is acting behind you. You are only a driver, basically. So I'm acting as per somebody else's directions.
Yeah, but you know, you are a good leader to lead the team, and that's most important. Otherwise, you know, especially your group companies like Burn, which were earlier BBJ, I mean Burn Braithwaite Jessup. These were companies which did not have the kind of respect which it deserves. Looking at the legacy of these companies, if you look at the legacy of Burn, Braithwaite, Jessup, and the other companies under Ministry of Heavy Engineering, they have done so much they have contributed so much to the nation building.
Yes.
In the
The
nation building,
abbreviation was BBJ. We used to
Yeah,
call
yeah.
it BBJ.
Yeah, that's right.
Bond, Brathwaite and Jessup.
Jessup, yeah. So it's I would say it's our misfortune that we could not accord the status these companies deserve. The respect.
Rather, I'll take this opportunity to inform the House a good news that within time span of 2 years, Brathwaite has converted itself from a Sikh company to Miniratna. This year we are entering into Miniratna Club.
Oh,
Yes.
wonderful! Congratulations, and
Thank you.
it's really great news to share with the nation. Yeah.
Yes.
Pahujaji, we have another 1 or 2 minutes before 3 minutes exactly. So we'll begin in exactly at 3 o'clock as per our schedule. So, Mr. Collins, please bear with us for another 2.5 minutes because we are just about to begin as per the
That's
timing.
fine. No problem.
Yeah, we're just waiting for if anyone else is joining. Okay.
Mr. Mukherjee, Mr. Taneja is not able to open his link. So can you please have it sent again?
Yeah. Ankit, can you do me a favor? Can you just send a message to Shreya or yeah, he's joined. He has joined. I can see him. Ankit,
Yes, he is coming. He is coming.
yeah, he is coming. Yeah.
So he had, sorry, I was muted. So he had joined as the attendee and have promoted him to the panel.
Okay, that's fine. So everyone, Taneja ji, good afternoon. आप unmute कर लीजिए तो Taneja ji. You have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Good afternoon,
Taneja.
everybody. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Very good afternoon.
Taneja ji. Yeah, Rohit, good afternoon. We'll begin in very soon. Taneja ji, another 2 minutes to go. So we'll begin exactly at 3 o'clock as per our schedule. And let me just outline the program, how it goes. We have the introduction of the panelists by Ankit, followed by the welcome address by Mr. Subrata Mitra, who's the chairman of organizing committee and ex-joint managing director of MN Dastur, and he's also a chief editorial advisor, followed by the national anthem. And then I'll take over as the session moderator. And the first speaker, or the keynote speaker, would be Mr. Tim Collins, who's the Secretary General of International Stainless Steel Forum, and followed by Mr. Pahuja, who's the director of ISJA, and then the address by Mr. Vijay Sharma from Jindal Stainless, Director Marketing and Commercial. Then Mr. Sanjay Kumar Jha, CMD Midhani. I believe Mr. Sanjay Jha has not joined. Ankit, can you see if Mr. Sanjay Jha is there? I can't see him on the panel.
No, he has not joined in the attendees as well.
Just send a message across to Ashika that he should coordinate with PA to Mr. Sanjay Jha to ensure that he joins.
Yeah.
Just send a message to him. Ashika should talk to PA to Mr. Sanjay Jha and ensure he joins. And then after Mr. Sanjay Jha, it's Mr. Sanjeev Taneja, ED Salem Sale, followed by Mr. Rajiv Shetty, MD Autocompu India, and then Mr. Atish Kumar, CMD Brathwaite, and followed by Mr. Hitendra Bhallaria, MD of Valeria Metalcraft, then addressed by Mr. NP Rao, Managing Director Pegasus Consulting, then Mr. Anish Bansal, partner Maven AB, and then Mr. Anil Mittal, MD Mittal Precision High-Tech Steel, then Rakhi Majumdar, and then a remark by Mr. Sabyasachi Bandyopadhyay, followed by sum up and concluding remarks by Rohit. So this is the program as of now. We'll get started because it's already 3 o'clock by my watch. So Ankit, if you could just begin the introduction.
Yes.
And then the formal introduction, and we begin. So once again, a welcome to warm welcome to everyone. We'll get started right away.
Okay, so I would first like to welcome all the panelists and the attendees who have joined us today. Our title for today's webinar is Stainless Steel Industry Looking Beyond the Pandemic. Before we start, I would like to take a moment to welcome our sponsors, Jindal Stainless, and our co-organizers, ISSDA Stainless Steel, for supporting our webinar. A warm welcome as well to our chairman of our organizing committee, Mr. Subrata Mitra, who is the ex-joint managing director of M.N. Dastur & Co., and our organizing secretary, Mr. Shobhochachi Bandyopadhyay, CTO Big River Steel USA, who will be joining us a bit later since he is, it's very early in US where he's based. I would now introduce our panelists for today, and is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, so first we have the chairman of our organizing committee, Mr. Subrata Mitra, who is the ex-joint managing director of M.N. Dastur & Co. Limited. Our keynote speaker for today, Mr. Tim Collins, Secretary General of ISSF, World Stainless Association. Then we have Mr. Karan Kumar Pahuja, President ISSDA. Mr. Vijay Sharma, Director Marketing, Business Development and Corporate Affairs of Jindal Stainless. Dr. Sanjay Kumar Jha, CMD Midhani Mishra Dhatu Nigam Limited. Mr. Sanjeev Taneja, Executive Director of Steel Authority of India Limited, Salem Steel Plant. Mr. Rajiv Sherry, Managing Director of Outokumpu India. Apologies if I got the pronunciation wrong. Mr. Yatish Kumar, Chairman and Managing Director of Braithwaite & Co. Limited. Mr. Hitendra Bhalaria, Managing Director of Bhalaria Metalcraft Private Limited. Mr. N.P. Rao, Managing Director of Pegasus Consulting. Mr. Anish Bansal, Managing Partner of Maven AB Inox LLP. Mr. Anil Mittal, Managing Director of Mittal Precision High-Tech Steel Private Limited. Ms. Rakhi Majumdar, Associate Editor, The Economic Times. Mr. Shobhochachi Bandyopadhyay, CTO, Big River Steel USA. And Mr. Rohit Kumar, Executive Director, ISSDA. So thank you once again to our co-organizers, ISSDA, and our sponsors, Jindal Stainless, for supporting our event. So our session moderator for today will be my father, Mr. Nirmalya Mukherjee, who is the editor of Steel and Metallurgy. And I would request Mr. Subrata Mitra, the chairman of our organizing committee, to deliver his welcome address and commence the session.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's once again a privilege and honor to chair the session, courtesy Nirmalya Mukherjee and his team with Ankit. And it's really a pleasure to once again meet virtually with all the eminent personalities. Today, we have the honor and privilege to have with us Mr. Tim Collins from World Stainless Steel Association, and the largest stainless steel manufacturer in India, Mr. Sharma, is representing Jindals, and other luminaries and eminent panelists, which I am not telling the name, and the Executive Director of Salem Steel Plant. We have so many eminent panelists today. So welcome to you all. We are awaiting a good discussion on the present and the future roadmap of stainless steel. As the country is growing, the use of stainless steel, of course, it did not be overemphasized, will grow. Say the railways and a lot of, apart from architectural use, the industries are going. The anti-corrosion use and other things will grow. I would like to share, because I had when I was very young, I started my career in a stainless steel making company, Alloy Steels Plant, Durgapur in West Bengal. At that time, Government of India set up, plant was set up long back. That time I was in school, of course, 1964. So they're based on government companies. It was Hindustan Steel at that time. It was later on became Steel Authority of India Limited, is represented by E.D. Salem. He will, of course, give us a good talk. Then at that time, many may not be knowing the plant was built with Japanese consortium, JASCON. It used to make stainless steel through electric furnace, melting scrap. It was low carbon ferrochrome, costly material was used, other stainless steel scrap. So the operating cost became very high. At that time, whatever slabs were later on, Salem Steel Plant came in the 70s in the south. in the state of Tamil Nadu. The slabs produced in alloy steels plant were sent to Salem for rolling. Salem did not have any, at that time, did not have any steel making facility. It was a good rolling plant which used to roll to, and the cold rolling was introduced. But alloy steel plant also had a 20 high Senzimmer mill, which did not work efficiently, and it never worked. So alloy steel plant had plate rolling and sheet rolling facilities. It had ingot casting. Later on, continuous casting was introduced, slab caster and bloom caster combined. That was the first one. Slowly, alloy steel plant was built as a, annex to Durgapur steel plant with connection in between. So that is how the stainless steel value added, maybe product grade that we used to make at that time was more than 200. So, but the plant somehow couldn't sustain. Anyway, there's a huge land, a lot of efforts were made, very good technology was used, the Japanese gave, that is Daido was the Daido arc furnaces was used. No need of going back to that. Now slowly the country has shifted to private corporate enterprise. Today Jindal, of course, Jindal Stainless Steel is doing very good. Others are also there. Today we are lucky to get eminent personalities where we are awaiting to hear from them. And with this, without wasting time, I once again welcome and await a good discussion. Thank you. Please proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mitra. Thank you, Shubhodaya. Thank you so much for introduction and also a brief history on how the stainless steel began its journey, its independent journey in independent India. And with that, we will move on to our national anthem. So I request everyone to rise for the national anthem. Ankit?
Yes.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you, everyone. Tim, just to recollect, let me share a bit of information that our national anthem was declared UNESCO's best national anthem a couple of years ago. So that's, the composition is by the Nobel laureate, Mr. Rabindranath Tagore, who belongs to my state of West Bengal. So he was the one who composed this national anthem. So with that, we'll now move on to our keynote address, and who else who could do justice to this than the Secretary General of the ISSF, International Stainless Steel Forum, which is the World Association for the Stainless Steel Industry. Tim, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and it's an absolute pleasure to be able to join you at this event today. And thank you to Mr. Mukherjee for the lovely introduction. And it was so nice to hear the Indian national anthem again. I've not heard it for some time, and I think it is one of the most uplifting that are around. Even being a sort of British citizen, God Save the Queen, whilst we all sing along to it, doesn't have the same uplifting sort of tone. So I guess I'm allowed to say that as a British citizen. But yes, an absolute pleasure to be here. And I think we live in some very interesting and challenging times at the moment. And I'd like to talk about a few things over the next few minutes. really to talk about how we conduct business from what we've learned over the last few months, look at some opportunities we have for future times, the next sort of 15 to 20 years in the industry, but also look at recycling and waste management as well, which I think are really important features for our industry. We have some great credentials, but I'll come back to that in a moment. But just to start off by talking about how we conduct business, and I think this webinar is a fantastic example of how we are connecting and becoming closer as industry leaders and industry specialists. And I think we've learnt to use technology over the last few months in a very effective way. And an interesting reflection from my perspective is, having been involved over the last few months with a few other organizations outside of the industry, some in the sort of civil service type sector, they're not as advanced in their thinking as we are in terms of how to connect. And sometimes that sort of sanity check almost is very useful to say, hey, we're moving forward in terms of how we interact with each other much faster than many other organizations. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to do business in a more effective way, use our time more effectively, and also improve the sort of carbon footprint of the planet by embracing technology. And I think this is definitely the way to go. Nothing beats a plant visit and a discussion on site, but we can equally do so much more by embracing the digital technology. But I think that nicely moves me into sort of the opportunities looking beyond the pandemic. And we know that we live in some very challenging times, not just because of the pandemic, but because of the environmental changes that we're seeing and the pressures to reduce carbon footprints in all countries of the world. And stainless, I think, as a product presents a great opportunity, not just because of its longevity in service, but I think the appetite is definitely there in the marketplace now to push the notion of life cycle costing. And using that approach, this is one mechanism where we can really show the benefits of stainless steels. And I think one of the old styles of thinking that I think it's time for change now is that looking at installations, whether that be infrastructure or process plant or whatever we want to consider, there's almost been a separation between the cost of installation and the maintenance of the installation. And I think it's time for change, that we need to think about moving to low maintenance or maintenance-free installations. And in infrastructure, this is a classic case in point where stainless steels really have their place. We can install so much now in terms of infrastructure, bridges particularly, using duplex stainless steels as a great example, to overcome the use of steels that sadly decay over time and other materials that decay, and also reduce the reliance on concrete, which we know has a less favorable greenhouse gas footprint compared to our products. So I think we're sitting there with an opportunity where we can really promote our products and exploit the notion of life cycle costing. And it's also very good to see around the world that local administrations, regional administrations in many countries are waking up to life cycle costing. And that's really encouraging. And I think we need to jump on that opportunity because our product sits so comfortably with its low maintenance or zero maintenance credentials. So for me, there is a fundamental shift opportunity facing us now, and we need to exploit that. I think equally, we have to look at things like the hydrogen economy too. This is a great opportunity that allows us to move away from fossil fuels. Of course, it won't be an overnight change, but it will be something where stainless can be exploited in many aspects of development. And we know, if you look at key market sectors, that probably industrial production is some years away from considering hydrogen to its full extent as a fuel. But in transport, we're far closer, and transport seems to be the right early adopter for the shift to a hydrogen economy. But equally, we have to focus on the use of renewable energy sources. And there is a clear dilemma. The countries that are best suited to producing hydrogen from renewable sources will probably not be the early adopters, certainly in the transport sector. So we also have to look at the characteristics that come with that, and that is fundamentally trade of hydrogen. There will be a need, I think, over the next 10 years where countries producing hydrogen, the hotter countries, and countries consuming more hydrogen will be some distance apart. So transportation is an interesting opportunity, and I think presents a great opportunity for stainless steels, particularly the austenitic family of grades when you're looking at transporting liquid gases. So again, we should learn from what has happened within liquid natural gas and use those parallels to exploit opportunities for our austenitic family of grades. I think equally, we need to think about the extreme weather changes that are coming at us. We can't easily stop that in the short to medium term, but we can protect people and land. And I think it's very important that we show the opportunities for stainless steel to give that protection. And I think there are some great examples all over the world. The tsunami defenses from duplex stainless steel in Japan are a fantastic example of how to not just utilize stainless steels, but reduce weights of these installations by employing high strength, corrosion resistant products. I think equally, you look at what has happened in the Netherlands, you know, a country that has almost 40% of its landmass below sea level, and all the protection these guys have put in place, often using stainless components, not 100% stainless installations, but again, to offer solid protection to people and land masses. We have to think about saving the planet, and I think stainless has a really important role there. And it's up to us as industry figureheads and leaders to convince people. And this jumps back to sort of the use of technology. We now have the platform where we can educate people in a very compelling way that will make them think stainless first and foremost. I'd also like to briefly mention sort of recycling. Part of the work that the ISSF does is to look at, from a global perspective, with the help of major academic institutions, the flow of stainless steels all around the world through their life cycle. And what is really interesting is that when you look at a global level, and bear in mind these are average figures, something like 10 to 15% of stainless that comes up for recycling at the end of its life goes to landfill. It never makes it back into the industry. That's a lost opportunity. If we can capture that, then we can reduce the cost of our production. But it doesn't end there. It's not so much about what we don't even see. There's equally a similar proportion, again, 10 to 15%, that goes into the carbon and alloy steel industry. And we're talking mainly magnetic families of stainless steel here that are less easy to separate. And currently, the price differences between the two products are not far enough apart to make segregation compelling. So I think we're faced with two opportunities on the recycling front where we can avoid mining more material by capturing what we're currently losing. So that opportunity to focus on losses, I think, is important for the industry, but it will need a collective effort with the recycling people and also local governments. This can't be something that the industry addresses alone. So we have many opportunities and many challenges, but I think together we can do some fantastic things. And a recent example of that was a couple of months ago. I hosted a webinar on stainless steel in bridges. And this is part of the new initiatives of the ISSF to get the message out. And we really targeted material specifiers and architects. What impressed me about this sort of approach was the level of interest and questions that came back, not just during the webinars, but for days afterwards. And these were people who really became switched on to choosing stainless. So I think we cannot let up on the educational dimension. It's something, I would say, we're all part-time marketeers in our industry. We should seize every opportunity to promote stainless and let everybody know what a fantastic family of products we have at our disposal and how they can be used in so many market sectors. I think most people understand some things about stainless and see stainless in their day-to-day lives, but we've got a hidden gem. We don't talk enough about it. We don't talk enough about the sustainable credentials, all the wonderful properties of stainless, and all the different variants. Most people think stainless steel is a single material. So let's jump on our soapboxes, as we say in the UK, and preach the message. Stainless is sustainable. Stainless is here forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tim. And, you know, just to briefly touch upon the way where you started by thanking the Queen, we would also pay respect to the Queen because it was the British legacy which has actually bound this country together. With so many languages, so many different sub-dialects, we would never be able to connect had it not been the British who taught us English. So we are proud that we have English as the official language of communication in this country, cutting across from north to down south, east to west. We have so many languages. English is the one which has helped in binding this nation together. And for all that India has achieved in the last 70 odd years is because of the language which the British gave us. It is because of the English language that we are so proud of, we have been able to connect far and wide and bring the world to our doorstep. Having said that, let me also thank you for touching upon a very critical subject, which is the hydrogen-based economy. And you mentioned about the automobile sector. Well, steel is not far behind. Okay, stainless steel may have a little to move on, but in Germany, as you know, there's been already a lot of work being done with the carbon steel initiative where hydrogen is being used as an alternate source of fuel. And I'm sure where you touched upon maintenance issues, making the plants maintenance free, there's a lot of maintenance work which is now being done from remote. You know, ever since the lockdown and the COVID situation arose, challenges bring opportunity. So I think this was one more opportunity for us to look at operating from remote. Had it not been the pandemic, perhaps you and I, team, would not be sitting here remotely. We would have been looking at an opportunity to have a live conference where we would be sitting together. Well, with that, I thank you once again for leading us today. And now we'll have Mr. Pahuja, the president of Indian Stainless Steel Development Association, who was the one who suggested that we should invite you. And he took the trouble of getting in touch with you. And with that, we could have you today here. And with that, I would also like to welcome Dr. Sanjay Kumar Jha, CMD of Midhani, who has really taken the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative forward for Government of India. And I think we are all aware, how Bridhani has
Thank you.
developed this, bulletproof jackets. I just wanted to know from Dr. Jha, is there a possibility where for the bulletproof jackets and bulletproof vehicles, we could use stainless steel?
No, that in fact, today trend is to go towards the composites. Composites has taken over the metal. So in the area of armor, the armoring of vehicles or bulletproof jackets, now we have switched over to the composites. So basically, the total fill is a composite now. Stainless steel.
That is to reduce the weight?
Yeah.
To reduce?
Yeah, correct. Reduce the weight and then get a better protection level. It has gone to that level.
And let me congratulate you because, the initiative which you have taken towards Atmanirbhar Bharat, especially with regard to the defense sector, that is worth congratulating. And I was reading about the vehicle which you have developed, which I believe could carry up to 7 persons. But then you could look at beyond that as well in future, where we will have, what I read was also that the tires which are being used, even if the tires are deflated, it can move up to 10 kilometers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jha. Please stay with us. In the meantime, let's move on to Mr. K.K. Pahuja. Let me also welcome Mr. Bhaleria. So next time you think of buying utensils, Mr. Bhaleria is there in Mumbai to take care of all stainless steel utensils. Bhaleria ji, once again, a warm namaskar to you and let me welcome you. And yesterday when I spoke to you, I found you to be a wonderful human being to be in touch with. And I would really appreciate if you stay connected with us in the long term. Let me move on to Mr. Pahuja, and who will take us forward in this journey in the new normal era beyond the pandemic. Pahuja ji, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee, and thank you for organizing this wonderful event. We just had a very interesting session from Mr. Tim Collins, and some of the things were very interesting, like the future possibility of transporting hydrogen through stainless steel. So that is something that we must all remember and work for it. I know all stainless steel veterans are here, but for the benefit of other delegates, I'll just say a few things about the Indian stainless steel industry. We are about 3.5% by volume, but about 12% by value. That's more or less, corroborates with the global pattern. India is the second largest stainless steel producer and consumer of stainless steel. The Indian stainless steel industry is very widespread, ranging from large corporates to mid-size units to MSME sector. MSME sector is very important because it constitutes about 40% of the industry. And we have some of the participants here today who will give the perspective on MSME. Just to quote some figures from ISSF, between 1980 and 2019, the growth in different metals is 2.5% for carbon steel, 3.7% for aluminum, 2.6% for copper, and as high as 5.3% for stainless steel. We also are having a same kind of pattern in India. Stainless steel has been one of the fastest growing metal with a CAGR of almost 8% over last 20 years. And stainless steel production in India has almost grown 4 times since the year 2000. Another important and unique feature of Indian stainless steel industry is the global linkage with the global markets. Considering that we consume about 3.5 million tons of finished stainless steel, nearly 1.5 million tons of stainless steel crossed our borders last year. That means 0.8 million tons were the imports, constituting mainly of flat products, and 0.7 million tons were exports, constituting mainly of long products. About 2/3 of the export that we do is in terms of long products. And we have world-style steel companies. Some of them are focused on the export to advanced markets. In addition, there is substantial export of stainless steel downstream products like tubular products, flanges, cutlery, and kitchenware. In my younger days, we used to talk about Sheffield cutlery, but if you are dining anywhere in the world today, they are most likely that you will be using Indian cutlery and crockery. I'm sure Mr. Bhaderia will vouch for that. Coming to the subject of this webinar, the pandemic has and its related lockdown has been a trauma for the whole industry, including the stainless steel industry. As we all know, April-June 20 quarter has been very painful with loss of production and the markets, but that is not behind us. It is very, very heartening to see the healthy recovery of in this quarter, with production gradually coming back to almost to the pre-COVID levels, at least in the large corporates. We have also gained enough knowledge and confidence to deal with the pandemic, which is not yet showing the sign of relenting in India. We are yet to peak and yet to find a vaccine, but we have learned to live with it. So we continue with our industrial activities under and adopt what is being called new normal. And as Mr. Collins said, this kind of event is one of that new normal and the new digitization trends that we are witnessing in all walks of life. Having said that, we have to brace for a year of degrowth, probably for the first time in the Indian stainless steel industry this year. Our estimated the stainless steel production may fall in about double digits, mainly account of the loss accrued in the April-June quarter. Although this can't be really made up in the rest of the year, I would wonder that can we double the rate of growth next year due to the lower base of this year, so that we catch up with our growth trajectory, which we have been following since last 2 decades. So I'm sure the industry veterans will debate on this and give their views. We, on our part in the Indian Stainless Steel Development Association, we continue our promotional efforts even more intensively and with our members and our partners to see that we achieve this objective. My colleague, Mr. Rohit Kumar, will talk more about it later in this webinar. So what are the confidence level and the new opportunities that we see today, where we can maybe double the growth next year? I will take a cue from the recent policy announcements of the government, where in addition to the normal stainless steel consumption, we are seeing some new opportunities. So to start with, I'll talk about the agriculture and farm sector reforms, where we can see stainless steel growing, because whether it is food processing or whether it is fishery or dairy industry, wherever there is food, there will be stainless steel. Second, that there is a greater emphasis now on the medical and health services. Not only that, there is a thinking that now India should become a healthcare service provider to the entire world, or a pharmacy to the entire world. And that kind of policy thrust will see growth of stainless steel in the healthcare sector. Then we have government has also announced opening of the strategic sectors of defense and aerospace, which can push the demand in this area many times. We are fortunate to have CMD Midhani here, and we hope we'll get some clue on this. Energy sector, both renewables and others, are another area of stainless steel growth. Infrastructure and construction will of course remain a major focus area where stainless steel can provide long-term sustainable value. Here we are seeing early signs of new demand emerging for stainless steel, rebars, and stainless steel structures, which are relatively new applications for this country. So the resilience shown by the stainless steel industry in India with a quick rebound now has new market opportunities also unfolding for further growth. There is also greater appreciation of industry issues at the government level, and we may continue to see more policy reforms in the days to come. So I would like to end my talk on a positive note that COVID-related disruptions are now behind us, and we will soon go back to our faster growth trajectory with a new normal way of working. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pahuja, for not just giving a brief outline of where we are headed for, but also a very positive outlook post-pandemic, where we are set for real comeback in terms of growth. And some of the key issues I think which ISDA should also keep looking at is issues which were taken up by ISDA 2 decades ago, when I remember Mr. N.C. Mathur was the chief executive of Jindal Stainless, and I used to interact with him those days with regard to ISDA activities. And Mr. Ramesh Gopal, who was the then head of ISDA, also was working very hard to ensure the implementation of stainless steel gas cylinders. That somehow did not take off well because I believe the cost factors came in. So the idea which was floated by the stainless steel lobby in general was the weight would reduce to half. The weight would be reduced by almost 50% in a gas cylinder if you start using stainless steel gas cylinders. Well, having said that, let me thank Mr. Pahuja for actually strictly adhering to the time, which he kept reminding me for the last 2 days, that everyone must adhere to their timing. So I would request everyone to please adhere to the timings. And since we are now going into the producer's views, I would request Sharmaji and others, including Mr. Rajiv Sherry and others, to strictly adhere to the 15 minutes time slot so that we could finish on time. And I hate giving a warning bell to anyone. So just request everyone to ensure 15 minutes in mind. With that, we'll move on to Mr. Vijay Sharma. The floor is yours, sir. And thank you for supporting us. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, Namaskar. Nirmala, I was really hoping that this time limit announcement you will say after I finish. Anyway. Okay, thanks for the opportunity. It's a great honor to be among such eminent panelists. It's not so easy, especially I can see many of you in the participation list also are like my gurus. Well, I represent Jindal Stainless, 50 years serving the nation and largest primary producer. I would like to share my manufacturer's perspective. It's a very, very appropriate topic beyond pandemic. Normally, people tend to mix it with the post-pandemic. We are in a very, very fluid situation. I think I need to be a little pragmatic, but not to scare all of us, but to be a little careful and cautious. I think we are post-lockdown. It is not post-pandemic yet, but yes, it is the right time to talk about beyond pandemic also. We are in the thought process of reviving the economy, and it's a sort of a tightrope walk between the life and the economy. We should not become careless. To give you certain important macroeconomic parameters, India, GDP 5th, population 2nd, population density 2nd, affected population out of the 14 largest economies in the world, 0.35%, it is as on yesterday. 11th, perhaps it's a lack of testing. Fortunately, the death rate, which is out of the affected population, it is 1.6% and it is 14th, the last among the 14. So it's a good news. But the growth rate, it is alarming. Are we at peak? Perhaps no. GDP contraction, it is worrisome. Recovery is critical. Nevertheless, now I come to the resilience part, what Mr. Pahuja also said. Q1, despite of April being a washout, this is based on my inputs from my downstream, from my domestic competitors. Despite of April being 0, the average Q1 was close to 25, and in June it had reached about 50%, and in July, August it had reached about 70 to 80%, and of course somebody would be above. This is the average figure. There is a brightness, what we see today. There are certain growth areas. I would like to divide these areas into various categories. One is a sort of a stable industry. Despite of the pandemic, the things which are showing brightness, stability, ABC, fabrication, welded tube, which though not being a segment, but it has become a sort of a segment. It is so important for the Indian stainless steel industry. Few segments are reviving. Auto, and I think utensils should also show the similar trend, but I see my senior here who will speak better. Certain emerging applications, health, medical, and the thrust area, the infrastructure. And also Indian industry is likely to get the new opportunity by the space created by China. Are we ready? Pahuja Sahab touched upon the MSME. I would like to give a little additional perspective to that. In India, MSME is the growth engine of the economy. It contributes GDP 30%, exports 50%, second largest employer after railways. And these numbers are the pre-new definition of MSME. In stainless steel industry, as per the pre-definition, which was based on the investment, not on the turnover, about 40%, like Mr. Pahuja said, are from the ecosystem of the supply side. And about 70 to 80% will be in the ecosystem of the demand side. So that is the criticality and importance of MSME in the Indian industry. But despite of being the growth engine, the MSME has some challenges. Labor intensive, inadequate access to finance, regulatory compliances, problem of scale, less automation. But we need to discuss them perhaps in a different forum. I request Mr. Mukherjee to have a separate dedicated forum to find the solutions so that they contribute to the vision of the nation 3 to 5 and Atmanirbhar. India is not isolated from the world. There is an impact of what is happening in the world on India also. World has been VUCA, not only for stainless, practically today, every industry is a VUCA. Post 2018, it has become super VUCA. Surplus capacities. China is a net exporter of 3 million ton. It is more than the flat product consumption in India in 1920. Indonesia has a capacity which is more than 25 times of Indonesian domestic consumption. Then dumping, then subsidies. Lots of trade remedial initiatives by the developed economies, started with US, responsibly followed by EU, and even the big daddy China imposed 18% anti-dumping duty on newcomer Indonesia. Out of the total initiatives going on stainless steel, more than 70% include China and more than 50% include Indonesia. Every SS producing country in the world is facing this issue. Earlier it was China, then it was Chinese investment in other countries, and then Chinese origin material getting circumvented. Fortunately, EU has again taken the lead of imposing duties on pass-through subsidies also. This leads to the discussion on the competitiveness of the industry. Primarily non-Chinese, the way I defined, companies in the world, including India. We know very well only two cost components, logistics and cost of capital. They make the Indian manufacturer less competitive by 10 to 12%. And I'm talking about this uncompetitiveness is outside the gates of the Indian manufacturers. And it is true for practically every product in the country. You look around, toys, electrical goods, tires, chemicals, name the goods, this challenge is there. Even our Ganeshji is also imported. Most of the audience is from stainless steel. All of us know about it, but still I would like to put a little perspective. In comparison with the steel, we are in the family of chapter 72, second largest, Pahuja Sahab said. India, stainless as well as steel, both are about 7% of the world respective consumption. And in per capita also, both are about 1/3 of the respective world per capita consumption. However, there is a very big change. One difference is there. In case of steel, the import intensity is about 7 to 8%, whereas in case of stainless steel flat products, it is more than 20%. You can understand that the result of this. In fact, between 1920 to 1819, the import grew by 40%. And within this period from Indonesia, it grew 3 times. In fact, the pre-COVID month of January versus the absolute COVID month of April, the total import increased by 43%. And from Indonesia, it increased by 8 times. As a result, out of the total flat products capacity available in the country of 5 million tons, public sector, corporates, private sector, and MSME, the market is just 2.67 million tons with the import intensity of 22%. And when we analyze, do we really need imports? We find that there is practically less than 1%, which perhaps is not in the manufacturing range of the Indian producers. And I'm not talking about quality, because Jindal Stainless is exporting to Europe, So Indian manufacturers are no less than in quality with respect to the other manufacturers in the world. Earning by domestic manufacturers is very critical, because if they don't earn, how can they serve the nation? How can they support the growth story of India, which the government has envisaged? I would like to touch upon utensils as well as welded tubes, two very, very typical and critical for Indian economy. When I see the base year in case of welded tubes of 16-17, 17-18 in case of turnover, import grew by 226%, 18-19, 436% over the base year, and had it not the efforts of the tube industry, the CVD would not have been imposed. It would have gone somewhere else, fortunately, but not adequately. Still in 1920, it was 263% of the base year of 16-17. Similarly, when I talk about utensils, two HS codes, 16-17 being the base year, 17-18, 25% increase, 18-19, 186% increase, and 19-20, 216% increase. So this is how the world is looking at India with the hawk eyes. Fortunately, the environment is changing. Atmanirbhar, vocal for local, make in India. These are the themes. Alleged role of China in COVID and whatever is happening on the border. Chinese origin, Chinese investment, Chinese per se. Government is firm, vision is clear, government is looking for future. Today is not critical. I must appreciate government for recognizing the plight of various industries, whether it is RCEP, whether it is Karotar, logistics plan, NIP, origin firmness, specifically for steel, NSP, DMISP, scrap policy, standards, SIMS, HS codes. Still, a lot has to be done. LDR, value addition, stern action against defaulters, faster action. And what can be better than stainless steel in terms of LCC and sustainable solution to help build the nation? I know such views create conflicting thoughts. There is a conflict in the family also. Circle cutter wants coil should come at a cheaper rate, circle should not come. Perhaps utensil manufacturer will want circle should come at a cheaper rate, bartan should not come. So it is a very, very natural phenomena. It creates myths, it creates propaganda, price, competitiveness, product imports, but always natural arbitrage happens. Actually, it is not a conflict of the interest of the business. It is a conflict of the larger good, which is actually the nation, versus the short term, which is perhaps the individual. I think it is an evolving subject. Remedies are available. We need to have the positivity and energy in the right direction. World has changed. Let's get aligned. Nation first. It is a time for coexistence. Domestic competition is safer than unfair import onslaught. We have to be together. A little bit about what we as the industry leader are doing, which is not visible generally to people. A lot of things are being done along. We are supporting ISDA, whether it is BD, standards, codes. We have got associated with Skill India. We have trained 9,000 fabricators in 61 cities in the last couple of years. We have created a SS Academy, courses in engineering, architecture, and design institutes, ecosystem development. We are developing a website. I welcome you to visit makestainless.com, where all the stainless users and suppliers of everything stainless, including the fasteners, consumables, they will get connected to each other. Makestainless.com. Odisha Metal Cluster, we are supporting the government to create the infrastructure. So this was something which, as a leader, as a responsible corporate, we are doing. So I would like to conclude. I'm very sure there will be lots of discussions on the opportunities, on the product characteristics. I would like to conclude whether SS opportunity exists. I would say yes. SS has been directly related with the growth of GDP. It normally in the developing economy 1.5 times. We have seen it in India. So economy is very, very critical for us. We have to support the government. For India, does the SS opportunity exist? I will say with resounding yes. Let's do it together. But we have to take care of our health. Like I always say, comeback is greater than setback. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharma Sab. Thank you, Mr. Vijay Sharma. Those of you who are not from the stainless steel industry, let me just share that Mr. Sharma is the Director of Marketing and Business Development and Corporate Affairs of Keynote Stainless Limited, who covered, I would say, the issues extensively, right from policy decisions to the industry statistics, growth prospects, and application areas. He covered almost everything which this industry needs to talk about. Having said that, I would like to thank Mr. Sharma for finishing well before 15. You did not even, I don't know if you can see, but I don't think you even crossed 14 minutes. You did it less than 14. So thanks to you for.
This speaks about you.
No, it speaks about your time management. You must have given 15 minutes a thought before putting in those 13 and a half minutes. So you saved 1.5 minutes. So thank you so much for covering the issues extensively well. Once again, Sharma sir, as you suggested, we'll have a series of stainless steel meets in the form of buyer-seller interactions in the scale. I tried.
MSME needs the support, big support, and with solutions.
I was just looking at some of the, for example, in fasteners that you spoke about, we could get these players together and the kind of support they need. I spoke to Mrs. Rasika Chaube. I tried to bring her today, but because the Parliament session is on, she told me, please excuse me for this time. I'll be surely there for the next stainless steel meet that you conceive. So I'm sure under your and Mr. Pahuja's leadership, we'll have a series of stainless steel meets for the MSME sector, for critical applications, out of the traditional, let's say, the kitchen segment, wherever new applications we can find and develop, we'll go into that. With that, I'll now move on to our next speaker, Dr. Sanjay Kumar Jha, who has recently gone, I would say, viral with the news what Midhani has done with regard to the these bulletproof jackets. Dr. Jha, what is it that you have named these jackets? You have given a name to this project.
Yeah, right? Before I proceed, I'll just talk some few properties, features about this jacket. See, bulletproof jackets are basically meant for, as you know, stopping the bullets of very high intensity. All bullets quality also is changing as per the time. So we classify level 4, level 5, level 6 like that. This is the classification. So we have met up to the level 6 requirements, where it can also withstand the AK-47 type of ammunition also.
Great.
So with that, this has been developed, and the idea was to reduce the weight also, because you cannot put more and more material and make so much heavy that the user cannot do with the comfort. So with this, the challenge is to reduce the materials quantity also. So we have Midhani and Bhava Atomic Research Center. We have developed a technology where by inducing a carbon nanotube, CNT, while making the bulletproof jackets, its penetration, its strength can be increased, and that has resulted in a jacket of high quality. And the same thing we have demonstrated recently. After a lot of it has gone for a lot of evaluation. Last 2-3 years we are doing a lot of trial tests and all, so it has come to that final level of the product.
So that is why you call it the Bhava jacket.
So it is called Bhava Kavach.
Bhava
The name
Kavach,
has been Bhava Kavach here. That has been coined by that.
Thank you, Dr. Jha. अभी आप शुरू कर सकते हैं. The floor is all yours. So your time starts now.
Yeah, it's my privilege to be part of this very knowledgeable panelist here. What I'd like to spend few minutes here on about that stainless steel and how its properties and application has changed over the period of time. So first of all, I'll tell that stainless steel is a very novel steel. It has given the lot of change in the application of the steels, as you all know, because of its ability to take, first the corrosion properties resistance is very high. Then we have we can also have parallelly gone for the high strength also has been improved. We have also its formability is very good, and understanding. So a lot of good properties are there in this materials, and that has resulted in a variety of grades. And by addition of the different alloying elements, you can see that its property can go from in one grade. If I consider the 304L, a very normal grades used, very widely used. If you see its yield strength from 205 MPa, a steel which is used as a martensitic precipitation hardening steel, it can go to even almost 1000, more than 1000 MPa. So it has a wide range to play with these grades stainless steel, and that's why we have today called austenitic grades. Then we have the martensitic, ferritic, and the combination of again austenitic, ferritic, austenitic, martensitic, and also we have added to that precipitation hardening steel. So what I mean to say is a lot of metallurgy and innovation and development has gone in the stainless steel, and that has attracted its application in the wide domain, starting from cutlery to now going for the high-tech material. It has a tremendous application. It can go for the missile application, where you need even the high temperature also it can meet the requirements. It can have very good formality. Even if you make, can make the strip of even the 0.1 point, a level of like our razor blades. So it has a huge change in its deformation and properties. And this, all the different grades, what I am talking from the Midhani, we have seen from the close, means like manufacturing side, that we have seen all the grades manufactured in our premises, and where we have served the requirements for the different areas. I'll give you one example. A simple SS321 grades, well known to all of us here. A small variants in 304L, 304, if you add some amount of titanium stabilized steel, you say it is 321. But if you find its application in nuclear requirement is different. If somebody is asking for the nuclear requirement, they say that you have to go for, let's say that low inclusions, you have to go for low gaseous content. If somebody is asking for another nuclear application, delta ferrite should be in the range of 10 to 15% to improve the weldability. In case of aerospace, requirement is different. In case of defense requirement, if you have to make the valve's body, we have to control the carbon to increase this high temperature strength. So these are all sort of combinations which calls for the unique combination of manufacturing process. And how to select the manufacturing process also depends on that what type of elements you are adding. If today the stainless steel has taken the role where we have to add the micro alloying elements. It is not only that playing with the nickel, chromium, sometimes with this the moly, but also by niobium, titanium, and certain amounts of other even the refractory metals. So it has gone for a wide variety of change. I'll give you one example. We know that margin steel has a very unique properties. It has a very high strength property, margin steel. In margin steel, the quality is excellent formability, and you can go for very high strength by adding some aging treatment. In a stainless steel, we have one grade, 465 grade, which is there, MDN 465, whereby controlling the carbon and all the alloying elements like titanium, copper, and all, it can go for the wide range in the properties variation. So in the area of stainless steel, I'll say a lot of technological intervention and innovations are required. And that is where, when I was listening to one of our co-panelists, we are talking about the certain grades still we are importing. The reason being, in our country, we are focusing mainly, and our consumption also is very high today in the area of consumer goods. But if you see in technological area like process industry, power industry, and there the requirement of stainless steel has gone up in terms of its capability to withstand the high temperature, withstand the high strength, along with the different type of corrosive environment. And that has put a lot of pressures. I'll tell you one example of duplex steel. Duplex steel today has a very important role in the oil and gas sector. So is the case of chemical industry and process industry. Now that is where, and duplex, there are so many varieties where we can go for lean duplex. Some place we have the very high amount of chromium and nickel. So there's a wide requirements in those areas. I found that, and these steels are not, you can make by certain amount of alloying and all, but the processing technology is very important. And that is where I wanted that the requirement, the change of, we need the stakeholders in the form of our academia and some of the R&D institutes and industry. If they join together, it is possible to develop. Recently, I can see the high nitrogen steel. Now that there are trend that nitrogen can be substituted for the nickel, which is very cheap compared to the putting the nickel. And you know the nickel is not available in our country. So if you substitute by nickel and the nitrogen, it is possible to get the very high strength. But then the processing technology has a unique feature in that. If you want to process those high nitrogen stainless steel, it's a big challenge. And these are the different experience which I wanted to share. In fact, I wanted to give some, we had some slides here, but because I have seen that it's only a one-to-one interaction, I'm just trying to talk over this. And I'll tell you some of the examples which we have made for the different applications. So some of the steels which we have made, I'll say for the nuclear sector. In the nuclear requirement, there is a steel called same 316. We know very well it is composition node. But 316, if you modify with the titanium and maintain a certain titanium carbon ratio, that steel can work fantastically in the area of nuclear environment. But the same steel without this modification, if you keep, its performance is very, very, very bad. Highly, life will be very, very less. Now, what is the reason for that? So that type of a study which requires, and since it is used in the specific sector I have mentioned about the nuclear, similar grades can be also diverted for our commercial application without adding much alloying addition, some modified chemistry, and this can give a very good performance in our normal application. I was discussing about, I told about 304L. In 304L itself, we have found that by changing its chemistry or optimizing the chemistry, controlling the carbon at the level of, instead of a specified maximum 0.03, if you make 0.02 and then control some of the sulfur and phosphorus, it can give a fantastic performance under the boiling nitric acid, and its MPY, corrosion resistance, MPY value is very low. So you can have a longer life in acidic environment. And one more grades just I wanted to mention here, which we have experienced, which is called stainless steel high strength, like it is called 440C. Now 440C, just in a stainless steel by addition of the extra carbon, and that properties, it can meet the requirement of stainless, and it can work like a very high hardness it can provide them. And unfortunately, those grades, a lot of things we are importing in this country. I am not talking about the raw material in the form. The number of cases the imports are not shown here because we are importing those things in form of the components, in form of the parts, assembly, sub-assembly, and that is what, when we are trying to find out what is the level of import in the country, we could see that the raw material side capture, when we have captured, that itself was coming on the very high value. But component level, assembly, sub-assembly level, it's much higher, very difficult to estimate. But I can tell you, if those grades and those products are produced in the country, and the type of policies coming in the form of defense, where we are now talking about in terms of that Atmanirbhar Bharat, and that is where the defense has taken a first lead in the form of declaring that 101 items, defense products, in the import negative list. So that type of policy, if it is coming, it is possible to utilize, possible to grow the manufacturing in the country. Otherwise, I can tell you very clearly, as long as our internal consumption is not increasing, especially in the high technology area, it is difficult to increase the consumption of special steel or high quality stainless steel. And that is where we have to look into the sectors where, like aerospace and defense, if their requirements are growing, then only it is possible to develop those materials. So is the case for space. I can tell you one example in the space sectors. When we are just trying to see the listing out, 12 to 13 different grades we have supplied to our space requirements, and it has a variety of changes. It requires a lot of control in the chemistry, in terms of alloying additions, in terms of its cleanness, in terms of its addition of microalloying elements. So those things are very, very important in case of development of stainless steel. Coming to the growth in this country, I think the stainless steel growth is very high. As you said, the requirements is growing. We are the second largest producer in the world, and definitely we have to fill the gap between the first and second. Gap is wide, so India has to take a leapfrog jump in that area. But our technology, everything is proven today. What we need today is some sort of innovation and use of the high-end technology in the manufacturing and the processing of the stainless steel. And also our downstream facility has to get enriched. And in this direction, I'll just try to put one part, that in the case of stainless steel, when we are looking for the very large width plates and sheets, it is difficult to get in our country. In fact, we are now setting up a facility in our Mr. Dhatu Nigam, where we are going to make the stainless steel of more than 3 meter width plates of stainless steel. And this mill which we are setting up, it can go up to given the thickness of 4.5 mm. If that type of products and tying up with some of our partners where we can go for the cold rolling also for the lower thickness, it is possible to meet not only our domestic requirement for the flat products, which we are now some part we are importing. It is also possible to go into international market, because what we have found that in the higher width there is a scarcity as far as the manufacturing capability is concerned across the world. So these are some of the things which we have done. Now, next sector which is growing in the aerospace. Now, in the aerospace growth in the country, as it has been seen now in the recent past, it is possible to there also some of the requirements of stainless steel. Volume may be very less, but then you have a very high-end products going in that sectors. As we have seen in case of the space, the aerospace also has a very important requirements in the country. Power requirements, I have not mentioned here some of the grades, like simply a grade called 304H copper. So by addition of a small amount of copper in the stainless steel and controlling its heat treatment, it can go very high temperature, application can be achieved. And of course, corrosion part is already well taken in the stainless steel. So that
you have just completed 15 minutes, please continue.
So what I would like to say in the nutshell, that the challenge in stainless steel production is immense and opportunity also is very big. So it is in this forum, whomsoever we are joining together here, it is possible to meet the requirements, and also why we should look only for the domestic, we should look for the export in the near next few coming days. So with these few words, I would like to say that, and we are now moving towards, Midhani is going for, we are making for the Center of Excellence for the steel development. So I would like that somebody can join us and they can work together in developing the new grades at the higher volume level. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jha. You gave a new direction to the entire application area, where demand may be less, but the value addition is high in terms of the aerospace sector and the defense sector, where you belong particularly. Just to introduce you, Tim, to Dr. Jha. He is the chairman and managing director of Midhani Mishra Dhatu Nigam, which is under the aegis of Ministry of Defense, Government of India. And they are, Midhani is focused in developing new technologies and products primarily for the defense sector. So that's what Midhani is all about. And I would say, nutshell, he covered the defense application areas as well as the new areas for stainless steel and the way forward. So with that, I'll move on to our next speaker, again from the producer segment, Mr. Sanjeev Taneja. And let me thank Dr. Jha for joining us for the second time. He was there for the earlier webinar with us also. And we just want Dr. Jha to be there in all our endeavors, because one of the next webinars we are planning is Indian steel industry's preparedness towards Atmanirbhar Bharat in the defense sector. So where we can become Atmanirbhar by replacing the steel imports with indigenously developed products and indigenously developed steel making technologies in areas like electrical steel and in stainless steel as well. So it's good that you also touched upon nickel-free steel by replacing it with hydrogen and with nitrogen. And that already Jindal Stainless, I believe Mr. Sharma can highlight that nickel-free stainless steel is something which Jindal Stainless is already producing. Am I right, Mr. Sharma?
Yes, Nirmala, we are already into high nitrogen grades of stainless steel. Yeah, and right. we are also in one way suppliers to defense and in certain relationship for certain products.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Yeah, this is what I had heard. That's why I wanted to verify whether Jindal Stainless is producing, nitrogen grades. With that, I'll move on to our next speaker, Mr. Sanjeev Taneja, who's the executive director and the head of the Salem steel plant of SAIL, which is again a public sector steel producer. SAIL altogether, including stainless steel, and total production is close to 17 million tons, which is today the largest producer of steel in India. Of course, JSW is neck to neck. So perhaps next year JSW will become number one and SAIL may become number two. But that's almost neck to neck. So with that, I'll move on to Mr. Sanjeev Taneja, Executive Director of Salem Steel Plant, Steel Authority of India Limited. Mr. Jha, your time begins now.
Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee. Good evening, everybody. On the lighter side, perhaps SAIL will stay number one this year also. We may not let JSW come number one. But that said, I must compliment the organizer for selecting a topic this time, which is a burning issue today, beyond the pandemic. And having me on the panel, because I am a very new in the stainless steel industry, just about 1.5 years, less than 1.5 years. But it's a very interesting industry. The type of applications and the vast variety of applications this steel has is unbelievable. We started observing the effect of the pandemic on the global economy as early as February, the US and the European sector. In India, its effect actually started only from the last week of March. And the effect since then, for the first few months, was we were all in a very difficult situation with extensive lockdowns impacting the supply chains, the financials. Forecasts were very short-lived. There was a lot of uncertainty. Consumer behavior was also very cautious with the higher tendency for savings. There was absolutely no investment, and a lot of sectors like tourism and aviation were simply not there. Negligible activity in those areas. We have come out of situation now. Economy is gradually opening up, and I must say, in the stainless steel sector, the economy has, I should say, reached the pre-COVID levels. I can see visible levels of growth in the near future. Because as of now, a lot of industries are still not working at their potential. So as these industries start picking up further and further, we can only, the demand can only increase. However, increases, it will stabilize at some level which was so near to the pre-COVID levels. I will not go into the figures because Mr. Pahuja and Mr. Vijay Sharma have already given us a lot of information. So repeating that is of no value. But I would like to add with the initiatives taken by the and particularly the stimulus for the MSME and supporting the localization initiatives with the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative. The demand in the stainless steel sector is likely to be very good. Our ability to meet the demand is dependent not only on how we do business now, today or tomorrow, but is dependent on how we have reacted during the lockdown phases, when there was a lot of uncertainty involved. Those of us who could take care of their workforce during that period will now stand to gain and will be in a position to ramp to meet the demand levels very soon. That was the first part of the equation. The second that is of concern is realigning our working in line with the protocols that are required to prevent the spread of the pandemic. It is this second in which we are at present, and it is very important as how we conduct ourselves in this, what Mr. Pahuja said as normal, how we conduct us in this situation will determine our efficiency. Steel industry being a labor-intensive industry, this is very important, particularly in areas where the spread is vast or very high, say in like in Tamil Nadu or Maharashtra, being in Tamil Nadu, I am facing these issues almost every day. And it is important that during this phase, we keep the host safe, keep their morale high, because ultimately our growth will depend on how well we are able to get the team to perform. We cannot have a lot of workmen falling ill with the pandemic, for which we have to take a lot of precautions, social distancing, wearing masks, avoiding meetings. A lot of those things have really changed the way we used to work. And getting everybody to be in sync with the new norm was initially a challenge, but now we have all got used to it, and this is what is now in the service. The other part, how we have guided, or because in the steel industry, if a person is working from home, manufacturing sector, he's actually idle. He doesn't have anything to do. In that context, how we have used them, use their time to learn new things and implement those learnings at workplace. Is a challenge that we have taken, and I would like to tell you that during these 4 periods of lockdown that Salem Steel Plant took the challenge of developing this duality, something which we had never thought of doing. But this lockdown period, we went into the details, the theory, the technology, the processing, and starting with the lean duplex, which we stabilized. We are also started processing the higher end duplex, the 32205. These small positivities are what are going to be the guiding factor for the industry to grow, because the potential, I'm sorry, am I clear? Because I'm getting some messages on my.
Yes, I was also getting messages, but as far as I can see, your audio is very clear. Anyone has a complaint with the audio? Okay, I suppose then everyone
No,
is,
it's all clear.
No, thank you.
yeah.
Then I'll just continue.
Yeah.
Yes. What I was saying is that the stainless steel in India, the recent initiatives taken by the government, they have really opened up, and I see no reason why we should not be to our capacity levels in a very short time of very short period of time. There would be definitely challenges in a lot of critical requirements, like Dr. But developing those critical steels would require a lot of interaction between the academics and the industry. We have started on a small scale with our research and development center at Ranchi, coordination with academics. And I think we are going to take it much further. Reacting to another point raised during the discussions, when Mr. Pahuja said whether we could double the growth next year. I personally feel that is likely possibility. This particularly comes because of the fact that a lot of areas which were not using stainless steel have now started stainless steel. The construction industry is one area which we can look at for volume. The carbon footprint for the industries. While we may not have a lot of development on the hydrogen front, but one area that we have started now seriously looking at is solar energy. We are thinking of a 3-megawatt solar power plant. In a tropical country like India, solar energy is easily available, this thing. And harnessing solar energy now has become quite competitive also. With the amount of consumed during the processing in the arc furnace, then in the rolling mill, it makes a lot of sense to reduce your power cost by solar energy. And Salem is well placed in that way because we have land to harness the solar energy. One area we are looking at. The other option for reducing would be replacing using the natural gas. With the gas pipelines coming up all over the country, the need to use costly LPG will get reduced. Although Tamil Nadu does not have a natural gas pipeline now, but we are in talks with India to set up a regasification plant for natural gas. And that is again major cost benefit. It will be a use of natural gas will be a benefit for all those who use LPG as a fuel in the reheating furnaces.
Mr. Taneja, you have just exhausted 15 minutes, so please conclude in another 1 minute or so.
Okay. Anyway, not much to say left. Just I'll thank you all for listening so patiently. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Taneja. You once again showed us a new path ahead of using solar and natural gas as alternate source of fuel, which is a very welcome step for the stainless steel industry. And I'm sure your peers in the industry will have a serious thought on this, especially those plants which have enough land and enough sunshine. They'll be the ones. And also the practical issues which you pointed out with regard to availability of labor. But I think SAIL is fortunate that way because most of your workers are in your own colonies and they are locally available. So that's an advantage for SAIL and plants which have their, I would say, captive manpower sources. With that, I'll now move on to our next speaker. Once again, a major player in the international stainless steel arena, which is Autocompo, and Managing Director of Autocompo in India, our good friend, Mr. Rajiv Sherry, will now take us forward. And let me share one more thing, Pauja ji, with you. You have been telling me about the time management. We had 150 in the beginning. Now, after the end of 1.5 hours, we have dropped to 118, as I can see from the screen. So it is right that as time moves on, it becomes too long, we have dropouts. But then again, we have a good number watching us on YouTube and Facebook Live. So I suppose the figure would be above 300 for sure, even as of now. So with that, I'll move on to Mr. Rajiv Sherry. The floor is yours, Mr. Sherry.
Hello everyone. I was trying to share my screen. I wanted to check if it is visible to all.
Not yet.
Not yet, yeah.
Okay, so I will try in the meantime, but let me start the talking in the parallel. So first of all, I would like to thank organizers of this webinar, Steel and Metallurgy and ISDA, on this very relevant topic, which is about future of stainless steel industry and post-COVID situation, how are we seeing the market? And of course, COVID is not gone and it is going to stay here. And it is a new normal now. And we have to ourselves to become more fine-tuned or tuned ourselves so that we can in the new normal situation, which is going to continue maybe for many months or maybe for a year, we are not so much sure. And unless there is a vaccine which is developed, or if suppose we actually, some people, they expect that this can be there for a very long time, because even if vaccine is developed, and after that, again, it is to be given to such a large population. So it may not be possible, considering the logistics and considering the large people involved in this activity. So in my discussion today, I would like to talk about 3 things. One is just a brief about Autocompo, and second is about normally what we do. We are talking to our customers who are very important, that we talk to them on very regular basis, and we take feedback from them on regular basis, and based on their feedback, which helps us to basically decide our further course of action. So hopefully now the slide is working fine.
Absolutely fine. Excellent.
Okay, thank you, just in time. So then third topic, I will be discussing about what is the looking forward, or what could be the ways in which we can minimize the impact, and how do we continue to grow our stainless steel industry. So first one, just a brief, because many of you are aware about Autocompo, but there are some who may not be aware. So just give me a few minutes to talk about Autocompo a little bit. So Autocompo is a global leader in stainless steel, and in terms of statistics, in 2019, it was a $6.4 billion sales, deliveries of about 2.2 million tons, more than 10,000 employees are working, and operations are in over 30 countries, with production units are in Finland, Sweden, Germany, UK, US, and Mexico. We are a very strong player, #1 in Europe and #2 in Americas. Our main raw material is recycled steel, and we are perhaps the only company with our own chrome mines in Finland, very close to the main plant. And our company is listed on NASDAQ Helsinki. If we see the performance of Outokumpu in the last quarter, which was very badly impacted because of COVID, and you can see that our sales reduced from 1.6 billion to 1.4 billion if we compare with Q1 of this year. And also, if you compare the same quarter last year, it was reduced by about 20%. So there was an impact, quite a lot of impact on the sales, and which is not unique to Outokumpu, and it is basically faced by the stainless steel industry. So as of now, people are expecting that in 2020, stainless steel industry probably will show -10% as compared to 2019. If you see our stainless steel deliveries, they were also down by 10% from 584 or 588 to 523,000 tons. So there was a reduction of about 10%. And Q2 is over, and a lot of people, they think that Q3 and Q4 situation is going to improve, but we have to be very cautious, and we have to see that how things are unfolding in the future. This is the picture which shows our manufacturing facility location. So we have 4 integrated mills. One is in Finland, Tornio, Sweden, Avesta, Sheffield in UK, and Calvert is in USA. And then we have some more rolling mills, 3 in Germany, 2 in Sweden, and some more in Americas. In the biggest advantage of stainless steel is that it is 100% recyclable, and it is the most recycled material in the world. And our stainless steel contains the highest proportion of recycled content. More than 85% is recycled material. In many cases, it is 89% or 90% or so. And our idea is that if people are using stainless steel, which is produced through a recycled material, then it has very low carbon footprint of ours and also of our customers, because our customers are also looking for solutions which are more environmental friendly. So we keep pushing this further to conserve virgin raw material and increasing the share of recycled material. And the reason why our carbon footprint is lowest is basically more than 85% of recycled content. And then we have our own ferrochrome mine with lowest carbon footprint, and we use low carbon electricity. In Europe, 80% of our electricity is carbon neutral. If we compare the carbon footprint of Outokumpu versus other players, Outokumpu is one of the lowest. And as you can see, as compared to the global average, which is about 5 tons per ton of crude steel, ours is about less than 2. And China and Indonesia, which are primarily not using so much of recycled material, and they use low nickel content ore, and they use blast furnaces and use coal as electricity. So the carbon footprint is definitely much, much higher. And our aim is basically to keep reducing this carbon footprint and reduce it by another 20% by 2023. So that was about Outokumpu. Now I am moving to the second part of my presentation, which is about, I was mentioning that we keep talking to our customers and we ask them what is their view on the market. So as you can see that this is basically a discussion with all the large global customers of ours. And as you can see that most of our customers, they have a major or moderate impact on basically due to COVID. And supply chains were disrupted, productions were stopped, capacity were reduced, there was a demand reduction, and many a times customers, they were facing problem with cancellation and postponement. And they have taken few measures, like they have to reduce capacity, production cut, or temporary plant closures, work time reduction, and postpone or cancel orders. So most of the actions are now taken by our customers. And as you can see that now plant closures and capacity reductions are mostly implemented. And they are expecting that demand, now the action which they have taken, they don't have to take more actions if the situation start to improve from here. If we speak to our customers and take the outlook for next 1 month or next 3 months or 3 to 6 months, so still our customers are very cautious and they are expecting that demand can deteriorate by about 50% people, and about 50% people feel that it will be stable or improve. And this is the outlook basically for even for the next 6 months. And if we analyze a response from our customers and take it in terms of distributors or automotive segments, heavy industries, domestic appliances, chemical energy, ABC, metal processors. So you can see that there are different segments have different concerns, but more or less, if we see what are the measures they have taken, and then we have to decide our strategy that what needs to be done for different segments. So now I'm discussing about what is the looking forward or mood in the stainless steel industry and what needs to be done by us in growing Indian stainless steel industry. So as you know that there was a very bad Q1 of financial year 2021, and now demand is coming back in Q2 from various segments as lockdowns are now being relaxed, except in some isolated areas, but most of the manufacturing industry is back on track. Labor availability became a major challenge because of migration, and now reverse migration has started. Many projects which were on pause are now being restarted. Many customers currently they are focusing on exports because because of domestic industry was not doing so well. So most of our customers, they were trying to see that what they can do in the export market. Supply chain is also back to normal. Port congestion, unavailability of trucks, and all those kind of issues are more or less sorted. Still, many customers are facing a lot of cash flow problem because of inventories, debtors. Cash flow is not in a good situation. They have interest to pay, loan repayment is to be done. But at the same time, customers are hoping that because of upcoming festival season and we had good monsoon this year, it will help in boosting the demand. And what needs to be done, in our opinion, that more expenditure is required by government on infrastructure to give some boost to the economy, which is in a very bad shape now, especially related to infrastructure like railway, metro, roads, bridges, and interest rates are reducing, but still I think there is more scope for interest rates to be reduced so that capex, further investments, operating costs can be reduced, and Indian industry take advantage of that, and they can further plan for the future. It is also important that stainless steel companies, they join hands and focus on increasing the market size rather than fighting for the same pie, bigger share. And there are many applications which are still in nascent stage in India. Our per capita consumption is quite low. Sustainability and life cycle costs should be considered while project cost evaluation, and low carbon footprint, cost efficiencies. These are the areas that our industry should be looking into. There was a lot of discussion about anti-dumping duties and trade practices. In our opinion, level playing field is important for all the players in the stainless industry. And if we have too much of protectionism or very difficult trade practices, it discourages global players to make investment in India for future growth. We summarize our discussions, key takeaways from our listening to other speakers also, that we know that stainless steel is one of the fastest growing material. There is a healthy recovery after bad last quarter, but we have to be very cautious. Stainless steel, the biggest advantage is that it has very good corrosion resistance, and because of which lower maintenance and thus life cycle cost plays a very important role. Sustainability and carbon footprint should be considered while deciding the material. Recycling is to be encouraged, fossil fuels versus renewable energy. That is again a topic for discussion. We should go for more of renewable energy. High performing grades, with many speakers were discussing about duplex, super duplex, high temperature application, highly corrosive atmosphere, improving machinability. So there are many grades which are available in the market, but that needs to be explained to our customers and encourage them that rather than using the standard grades. And we need to support on new application development in the areas of agriculture, food, fisheries, pharma, healthcare, defense. So these are the various segments which are upcoming segment as I was listening to other panelists, and how we are going to help industry in the application development. Another important point was that how customers, our customers, they can take advantage of using wider material so that they can reduce the wastage, fabrication cost, consumable cost, time, manpower can be saved. And ultimately, if we have to become a global player, India has to become a global player, we have to see which is the best solution available in the market. We have to focus on being cost competitiveness. Digitalization is the new way of doing things. How to improve productivity as manufacturers. These are the areas we should look into. And we need to share our knowledge and experience as a global player and support Indian industry to grow. So this is my last slide. And I'd like to thank everyone to listening very patiently. And in case of questions, maybe I think we will take it after all the presentations are over. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Mr. Rajiv Sherry. Once again, as my clock tells me, you saved me 40 seconds. So you're well on time. Well, again, the best thing I liked about your presentation was the customer feedback. We always keep saying customer is the king. So what the customer feels about the industry is very important. And I'm sure Tim must have also liked your presentation. Tim, your comments on Mr. Sherry's presentation, please.
Of course. So I think there are some very interesting parallels in what Mr. Sherry had to say, and some of the things that I was certainly thinking about also for today. But I think one of the important takeaways, and I think it is a really important message, was the message about not fighting over the share of the same pie. I think what we have to do is think from an industry perspective collectively. There are huge opportunities for growth, and just looking at the infrastructure suggestions, if we work together with the same principles, the pie will get bigger naturally, and then everybody gets a larger share. So we have to think slightly longer term rather than immediate term. And I think, you know, that's certainly what I see as one of the core roles of the ISSF. And I think Mr. Sherry's comments in that area are particularly relevant and important, and we should all focus on that. So that's, I think, one of the most important features, not sort of pushing anything else in the priorities down the order, but for me, that would be the number one. Their opportunities are great. Getting the consumption up is the challenge.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much. And Mr. Sherry, I think your point is well taken, that we all need a level playing field. We are not asking for protectionism. No one seeks protection these days because the world is one. The market is one. So it's just that we need to ensure that there is no dumping by anyone. That's for sure, yes. So as long as your production costs are at par with the international standards, you compete in a fair market. We don't need, no one needs protection. We are talking about a level playing field today. That's it. And that point is well taken, Mr. Sherry. With that, there are a couple of questions. Ankit, are you, if you could just highlight the questions, or I'll ask Rakhi perhaps to raise those questions. Rakhi, can you hear me? Rakhi, Rakhi, can you hear me? I think Rakhi is unmuted now. Rakhi, if you could just you know, I am not hearing Raki. Raki, can you hear us? I think she. Yeah, Raki. Please.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm giving the job of a journalist which she likes best, to ask questions. So, as a very senior journalist in the industry, Raki, it's your job to just take the Q&As and ask the questions. Just click on the Q&A and ask the questions which have been asked. And you can add any more questions that you want to add.
Yeah.
You just click on the key.
There is a question from for Mr. Jha.
Yes.
I think it would be Mr. Taneja. It would not be.
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Jha.
He meant
What
he
are
said.
the upcoming interests of sale for capex. I think the question is from a person called PC, and they want to know on sales upcoming interests for capex. I think it's restricted to the stainless steel sector, perhaps. And Mr. Taneja would be perhaps the appropriate person to take this question.
Mr. Taneja, you have to unmute yourself.
Yes, I think I'm audible now.
Yes.
Capex Salem steel plant per se, immediately we have no immediate plans for any capex at Salem steel plant. But total, there's a full capex plan for sale as a whole. This would not be the right. I would not be the right person to answer because it's a big capex division we have at the headquarters. But yes, we have a continuous capex program, and some new facilities are coming up. So there's a new hot strip mill coming up in the LD converters in Bokaro are being revamped. A new car coming up with metal refining and RH. Similarly, a new mill at Durgapur steel plant, plus a host of other facilities. I could just tell you offhand because that information would be available only at my headquarters, not at my level.
So we'll move on to the next question then. There's a question for Dr. Jha of Midhani. It's a slightly technical question. It is, what is the immediate non-nuclear application of high nitrogen stainless steel? This is a question that has come from Dr. Ilaya Perumal. Dr. Jha of Midhani, what is the immediate non-nuclear application of high nitrogen stainless steel? Question raised by Dr. Ilaya Perumal.
Dr. Jha, can you hear us? Dr. Jha is there. Dr. Jha, can you hear us? Dr. Sanjay Jha, can you hear us? Or I think what we'll do is Raki, with your permission, can I pose it to Mr. Vijay Sharma to answer this question?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Dr. Jha would have been a better person, but I would like to substitute him. Once again, namaskar. Some of the applications are related to the defense, where we are also like trawlers and few things like that. So, and Dr. Jha was also talking about the defense applications. So it goes into that area.
Then there is a question for Mr. Sherry from the same person, from Dr. Ilaya Perumal. What is the potential of using stainless steel for civil reinforcement bars and which grade?
Yeah, so of course, I'm not expert on bars because I'm handling the flat products. But my understanding is that Outokumpu has developed several grades, like for example, grade called 1.4362, which is the grade which is suitable for rebars, because here you get very good corrosion resistance as compared to the standard grades. And normally we are promoting these kind of grades on selective use basis. So normally we are not asking our customer that they have to use a stainless steel rebar for the entire construction, because the areas which are more prone to the corrosion, especially for example, if there is a bridge which is being made over sea, for example, and similarly, if there is some construction which is going on in such corrosive atmosphere, so those are the areas where we suggest our customers to use the grades. So they are probably more expensive in the beginning, but ultimately, if we do the life cycle cost of such grades, in that case, you will find that your structure is good for 50 years or more than 50 years, rather than using some grade and after 20 or 30 years, you start facing problem with corrosion. So areas which are exposed, those are the areas where we have to use right grade of stainless steel.
There's another question, if you would like to take this. This is from K.R. Ananth Narayanan. And he's asking whether Duplé stainless steel is suitable for railway coaches.
Absolutely. So actually the advantage of duplex grade is basically that the strength is much higher. So you can reduce the thickness of the steel. And if you reduce the thickness of the steel, in that case, you are making the energy efficient, or you are using less weight for the dead material, and then you can have more capacity for the actual weight which is going to pay you. So we are promoting our duplex grades. We have also developed a special grade. It's a lean duplex 2101 for railway coach application. And advantage is that there was another question just after this. So we can supply this as a 2 meter wide in the sheet or in the coil form. And in that case, there is a lot of saving related to the fabrication, because a single sheet can be used for making the structure, rather than if you buy 1.25 meter or 1.5 meter, and then again you have to do a lot of welding work. So this is the reason that if we do the again life cycle cost, in that case, you will always find that this grade is much superior. Currently railways, they are using, normally they are using a grade called 409M for steel, which is, I will say, it is the entry level for stainless steel. The corrosion resistance is quite low. And in that case, it is as good as carbon steel. And then after that, you have to do painting and you have to do regular maintenance. So the advantage of using stainless steel is not fully achieved if we are not using the right grade. We will be very happy if anybody is interested to know more about it. And if anybody is interested in any technical support, our team will be very happy to support on that.
Yeah, Raki, now Dr. Sanjay Jha is back, so you can pose the question to him.
Ask him the Midhani question, okay. I'll just go back to that question.
Yeah, I've just moved the question to the answered section, so you'll find it in the answered section.
Or you can read out the question, make life easier for.
The question to Dr. Jha of Midhani: what is the immediate non-nuclear application of high nitrogen stainless steel? This is a question coming from Dr. Ilaya Perumal.
Oh, high nitrogen stainless steel, other than nuclear, you are asking? Non-nuclear application.
Right.
In the defense, they require, see, basically, nitrogen has the two role to play. One, that it is giving the, substituting the nickel, and as well as it is also increasing the strength. So what is can happen that wherever you need corrosion resistance also, strength also, together, nitrogen and steel can help. But as I said, challenge is in the fabrication. Defense is the one area which is required. Certain grades of valves body also is where you need a lot of wear resistance. With the corrosion, you need the wear resistance. So it can be used in the oil and gas industry also, as well as in the process industry, where you process the chemicals. Chemical processing area also it can be used. But as I said, the challenge is mainly because in the forming and making the different the processing stage, shapes and sizes. So that if you are able to address by developing the proper technology and proper thermomechanical processing parameters, it is possible to utilize. And rather I'll say it can substitute some of the high-end materials.
There's
Thank-
another question for Mr.
Yeah.
Sherry. This is from ACR Das. How much is the total import of stainless steel from your company to India, and what are the major grades?
So this question is a little sensitive in nature, so I will not be able to answer exactly how much are we supplying into India. But one thing is there that we are focusing on high-end application. As I was mentioning earlier, our focus is not on 200 series material. Even for 304 also, we are not very much interested. We are interested in duplex, super duplex, thermal range for high temperature applications, highly corrosive atmosphere where you high corrosion resistance. That grades like 254 SMO, 654. Those are the which focusing mostly. You have to also consider that in our case, our product, there is a customs duty of more than 8%. And then our material has to move from Europe to India, which also incurs additional cost of depending on the price of the product, but it is again a very expensive. Not possible for us to compete with the domestic industry as well as with the other Asian players where they have the advantage of FTA. So they can supply material most of the time without any customs duty. So we are in a certain disadvantaged position. So that was my point of saying that we require a level playing field. Already we are not in that zone, and there is already an anti-dumping duty on cold rolled products for last 10 years. And we cannot participate in Indian industry as we wish to.
Thank you, Mr. Sherry. Raki, any other questions left?
I think these are the ones that have come in.
Okay.
Okay, there's another one that has come in. This is for Mr. Sharma. Is JSL planning to start production in 2-meter wide plates? JSL being a major domestic player, are you planning to start production in 2-meter wide plates? This is a question that has come from Sandeep Deshmukh from Praj Industries.
We are evaluating this option by having certain tie-ups, so it is under consideration.
Thank you, Sharma Saab. Thank you, Raki. Thank you, Mr. Sherry. We'll now move on to the, as Mr. Sharma said, the corporate CEO of a public sector undertaking. Mr. Yatish Kumar, Chairman and Managing Director of Braithwaite and Company. So, Mr. Kumar, the floor is all yours. And your time begins now.
Thank you, Nirmalya. And first of all, let me thank Tim, Sanjay ji, and Vijay Sharma ji, and all my co-panelists to set the floor in tune for me. And most of things has been covered, but I will try to stick to the main topic that is called beyond, looking beyond the pandemic. So let me share a positive part that in Braithwaite, we have done better than last year in July and August. So that's a very positive note I wanted to share, that let's look beyond. So, you know, in my earlier conversations also, I have been telling my people that there is a gap between designers and steel makers. And unless you thread that gaps, whatever conference, whatever seminar we have is not going to conclude in a proper manner. So a designer like DRDO or RDSO sitting in Delhi or Lucknow, they are not aware what kind of grade you are making. So we need to learn first that you should push what you are making, because your R&D is on the job and structural R&D is doing somebody else. You have to communicate with them. Coming back to that subject, what I think that India has got 7,500 kilometer coastal area, and for stainless steel, that's the area where we should look into. The structural part which railway carries, which railway stations, which bus stations, different structures which have its life, and in fact, in my views, they have lived their lives. And we are focusing on always new manufacturing product, but in my views, there is a segment called service reconditioning. There you can replace mild steel to stainless steel in larger volume, which includes wagon rebuilding also, which includes coach rebuilding also, which includes small bridges. The team was talking about duplex steel, the lean duplex. We need to learn that. We need to teach that. And while learning and teaching, we have to develop different welding training center across country. Unless your skill is ready to cope up with the kind of duplex steel you are proposing or we are proposing, we will not succeeding in that. There are two factors which makes you different from which makes China different from other countries. That they play with the volume, and the cost difference between volume and other things is hardly 10 to 12%. If we focus in transportation and if we focus the cost of the electricity power, then I presume that cost can be tackled easily. I suppose I'll give you one example, that containers. Let's choose containers. Since 2012, India is importing containers from China, and containers is something which is very prone to corrosion. It calls for a lot of repairs, and only ISO containers are being used right now. If we use cuboids, if you use bicons, and if you change the way transportation is happening at this moment in containers, and we choose different materials, if you choose duplex, SS, RSM 44 in containers, you will find that the future which railway or India is thinking about upgradation of axle loads, which will be actually operationally utilized. So I presume that by change the way we look upon transportation sector, we can save 12% money there. And in this bad time, what we can think about the innovation. Like in Braithwaite, we proposed 3 to 4 new design of wagon. We developed 260-meter carrying rails, completely rake for sale, which will help nation to build DFC at a higher rate. That will also add on to the average speed which we are carrying right now. You will be happy to know that in Indian Railways, we have doubled the speed in the last 6 months. The goods speed has reached now 60 kmph at present, which all these things in combination will help industry ultimately. The new projects which I look for, like the developing countries like Nepal, Bangladesh, and all those developing countries also needs support, and there is a huge consumption forecast. So all of us can think upon all those areas, and I think I will not take much of your time, but I will again stress upon that let's make bridge between ministry, across ministry like agriculture. If you see FCI is making silos. Why we are not making silos with SS? Why we have to approach as a steel manufacturer, as a steel fabricator. We have to approach them and give them solution. And then some. I'm very hopeful that some change will come. So with that, thank you very much for inviting me in this session.
So, if there is any question, anyone would like to ask Mr. Atish Kumar? Any questions from the panel? Okay, then if there are questions, we'll take it up later. There are questions which I can see. One is there any innovation in raw materials for steel housewares? This can be answered by Mr. Sharma, or it could also be answered by Mr. Valeria. Valeria ji, आप आंसर करेंगे इसको?
अभी स्टेनलेस स्टील न्यू ग्रेड्स, द लेटेस्ट ग्रेड तो ऐसा कुछ एकदम न्यू नहीं आया है, बट फॉर इंडिया वी कैन से दैट देयर इज अ 204 CU is a reasonably new grade, recently popular, which has got a 1.5 to 2.5 nickel and 16 plus chrome and 2% copper. So it's a very ductile material, solves many economical problem, and it's a very good grade.
Okay. Now there are a couple of questions. Rakhi, would you like to ask these questions which are there in the Q&A? From Jagadamba, there is a question. Rakhi, would you like to ask these questions? I don't. Okay, I'll do the job for Rakhi. This is Pawan from Jagadamba Cutlery Limited, manufacturer of biggest range of housewares. We need 3-ply, 430 and 201 in big quantity for cutlery and utensils, but the competition with China is big. This pandemic time is giving lots of opportunity and threats. So it's not really a question, a comment. Vijay Sharma ji, would you like to take a call on this issue?
This is a trend which is coming up, and yes, this is a type of a product required by the domestic industry, and such products can be a part of the downstream manufacturing, and it can also be taken up by the primary producers. We are looking into it.
Okay, then Mr. Anant Narayan, CDU Master IRSM 44 fabrication. What about steel for underground rail movement, that is metro rails? Dr. Argham Majumdar. Sharma ji?
Once, can you please repeat the question?
What about steel for underground rail movement, that is metro rails?
No, I would like to have a view here, because what I have seen is there had been certain talk about certain grades which was primarily based on the technical aspect. You see, we have to really understand a sort of a overall ecosystem which is not purely technical. It is involving the techno-commercial and economic aspects also. We cannot make best the enemy of better. All of us know what is best in the world, but India has got a very, very typical economic situation. For example, if it was not India in commercializing the 200 series for utensils at that point of time, when the nickel used to have perhaps 150 to 200% import duty, then where we would have been. So I would say that for every application, there is an optimum grade which should be used depending on the life cycle costing and the aspiration of a life from a particular application. Perhaps I don't need to use something in my independent house which lasts 200 years because I'm going to demolish my house in 25 years. So now coming back to the specific point about the metro. Metro is using stainless steel. We are very happy about it. There are many metro manufacturers in India. We are again very happy about it. And also there are suppliers of stainless steel for metros in India. We are very happy about it. There was also a reference about level playing field and foreign investment. Foreign investment is most welcome, subject to the right investment and subject to the right value addition in India. We cannot have an economy where instead of make in India, we have trade in India. We are very clear that it is the government's compulsion to increase the manufacturing component as a part of the GDP. Otherwise, 3 to 5 trillion will not be possible. So my suggestion is that it has to be looked in a larger perspective and in more in totality.
You're absolutely right, Sarma Sahab. I always, my campaign has always been focused on Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat, which means if there is value addition, it is welcome. So it cannot just be another Singapore where we only act as a trading nation. We are not a trading nation. We are a nation of manufacturers. We are a nation of technology. We are a nation of fabrication. So if there is at least some value addition, it is welcome, but not to act as a trading platform for the rest of the world. That's precisely my point. Anybody in India manufactures 317S wires. I don't think there is any answer to this question. And Metro Rail will be under a river in Kolkata near future. Are steelmakers thinking anything on this line? This, I think, Mr. Vijay Sharma has already answered. So, and the common website for stainless steel ecosystem is already answered by Mr. Vijay Sharma. So I don't think there are any more questions on that front. So we'll move on to, while thanking once again our last speaker, Mr. Yatish Kumar. I'll move on to the next speaker. Again, a user segment player, a major player, Mr. Hitendra Bhaleria, Managing Director of Bhaleria Metalcraft Private Limited. And Bhaleria ji is again a wonderful person whom I would love listening to. And I told him that next time he is in Calcutta, I'll treat him with enough rasgullas and the best of the quality of rasgullas he wants to have. So over to you, Bhaleria ji, and your time starts now.
Thank you, Mukherjee, for inviting me for the web seminar. Our topic is Beyond the Pandemic. I think during the pandemic, whoever taken care of their workforce will be the winner, as said by my previous speaker. In Mumbai, Maharashtra is badly hurt, but the Mumbai was the best. We are worst hit on the pandemic. Still, we are not recovered, and it's going at a peak. The workforce, the basic started from, there is an area called Bhayandar. What is that is in Delhi known as Wazirpur. The workforce is 10 to 15, 20% is a maximum, depend upon company to company. So the production has not reached to the utensil level, so usage has not increased. All the stock people had has been finished. So the demand of the Indian sector on the houseware, we are not thinking how it will pick up, but it has picked up to 50 to 65% domestic. But the main demand is a cooking sector. Is a cooker, cookware, and gas and a mixer and other kind of things on the street or the shops. Because people started cooking by themselves as a hobby or by force. So the self-cooking made them increase the demand on stainless steel. And the shopkeeper are at a medium demand, but the internet seller are at high demand. And the mall and the organized retail seller are the least because they were closed many times. Now, on front of manufacturing, our manufacturing friends, we together were thinking there is a restaurant division and there is a houseware division. So many big stores has closed down and there is a cancellation of order happened. and still they are not recovered on international market. But the internet seller over the overseas also are coming back, and they are ordering more and more. The good thing in this pandemic happened, something happened, people are shifting their mindset. Due to the COVID spread from China, they have some negative mindset about China, so they wanted alternative source. On alternative source, India is a lucky country who has started stainless steel utensils 1955, 50. We were the early adopter of the stainless steel to use in domestic household goods because of the utility of one-time investment and long-term using. So India has more than 120,000 manufacturing SME units who are producing stainless steel utensils. So has a capability to convert the sheet to the forming product. So this opportunity, but they are really become micro to medium. We are not growing at a higher pace because of the infrastructure, money, and the bank and the government support. And the world market is not with us, is a mindset. But actually we are not looking for the world market. We have got a limited capacity. And marketing worldwide is a real challenge. So what the China have, marketing exhibitions, we must have to increase the market, that government support for the world exhibition to happen in India so many years, then gradually people will shift to find an appropriate buyer here, and then the whole, if we make on a large scale, then only it becomes economical solution for everyone. Now, the demand has increased, domestic 65, but 80% international demand on many front has come back. And they are looking to India, but we are not able to supply them due to lack of workforce now. Except the Bhayandar, the other area, there are reasonably good people coming, and for work production is on their way, 50%, 70%, 60%. So this is the situation now for the production. Then now the price, the stock has got finished. So the price has increased due to lack of stock, and the supply is, demand is more. So 10-15% price has increased. In the scrap, it was 44 to come to 50, 200 series, and all the scrap is going up, the raw material coming up. China and India, the 304, 15% price has gone up. The old payment issue is also running the market, hampering bad. Some of the customers said we are in a bad situation, but the new business going well with the good payment terms. Now, about the good demand, why the demand is good? Because shift from aluminum to 430 in a oven and the heating products. So people are shifting from aluminum to 430. People are going for food and storage. Plastic was the problem. Many state has discontinued plastic. So they are going for stainless steel. For a school lunch box, water bottle, so many things, plastic is getting discontinued. So that is shifted to the stainless steel. So that's a new demand area. Iron and steel, for corrosion, it is shifting here. For a reworking or something. Non-stick also getting less and less demand. Converting the new demand, has my friend, fellow guy Jagdamba said, non-stick to 3-ply. So 3-ply must be looked at our Indian main producer if they can produce 3-ply. Microwave, people are little bit discontinue back to the oven. So the metal article can be used. So the stainless steel is again back to little bit, or for a microwave to oven, so possible. In between the microwave era, it was being shifted. So now, the cost is increasing, not only for the labor increase, but the companies of last 6 months, we have been penalized from March to here because of lack of people. The overhead cannot meet, and the people are increasing their margin also too, because overhead remains the same. This is a situation in utensils. And metro and railway constructions are using more and more stainless steel. That's a good news. To cut down the imports, the duty the government has already done 10 to 20 on this one. Use local people, but instead of the native people coming from long states, people are not coming back. So you have to use the local people. That's another idea. We can use a local woman from around and teach them. Now, have unskilled people, we can go for a semi-automation. Automation is literally not the first step for India. We can go for at least semi-automation as a first stage, and then we can go for automation. That will give the solution to this. I see a good future of the stainless steel manufacture in 2-3 years. The world, there is a good demand. People want to buy from here. They want to buy big volume. But if there is a big volume, the companies are not capable of supplying them. So this is the basic scenario. And we can develop the women's skill development to give this demand. I think these are the few things that I want to share with you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to meet you. And at Valaria, we produce 8,000 different product SKU on different segment. We have engineering, houseware, restaurant, and many, many other segments. We are 185 years of family business is going. I am a 7th generation. Lucky to be, I love stainless steel and my life is stainless steel. Thank you for being with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Valeria ji. You know, आपने तो सबका दिल जीत लिया. You know, 7th generation and still going strong. And as long as, you know, you're a good customer, you will raise the issues, which is that of an unhappy customer. Unhappy customer in the sense no one likes hike in prices. So this is one point which you so correctly pointed out. But then you have to understand, you know, that is why Vijay Sharma ji and others are working so hard to find out alternatives. Yes, सारे nickel जो है, we keep importing the entire nickel needs of our country. And you know, the entire ferroalloy prices, the input prices of stainless steel are skyrocketing. So obviously that is the main reason for input. लेकिन मैं आपको एक चीज बताता हूँ. I'm still using a copper, what do you call, a water bottle. So next time I'm in Bombay, please ensure I get a stainless steel water bottle. This is
you are using the best. What you are using is the best.
Yeah,
though I am a stainless steel guy, what you are using is the best.
Yeah, that is true. But you know, to patronize steel, which has brought me up, I want to start using stainless steel water bottles. So and besides that, आपने मुझे 6 minutes बचा दिया. You saved my 6 minutes. So for that, a gift is due from my side for saving my 6 valuable minutes. And I'll now thank you once again for being there in the 7th generation. And I'm sure your sons and your grandsons will all be in the same business, because just as I share the same passion with you, as you can see, my son is here on this platform, and my son is doing, you know, IT. He has not taken up metallurgy as his subject. He is studying IT, and as you can see, he's there in Germany doing his master's in IT. But I will ensure that he has a role, because no one uses IT as much as the steel does. So steel industry uses maximum IT, and I want my son to get involved and take you as an inspiration, where in the 7th generation, you're carrying on the legacy. Just as if you see in the JSL family, Mr. Abudai Jindal has now taken over the reins of the company. And I'm sure the family legacy will go on like this. So with this, I thank you once again for inspiring all of us today. And I'll move on to our next speaker, which is also a consultant, and he will give a neutral view of the entire scenario. So over to Mr. N.P. Rao, Managing Director of Pegasus Consulting. Mr. Rao, the floor is yours, and your time starts now.
Thank you. It is my privilege to be part of this highly topical forum. As the world embarks upon the path to recovery, the stainless steel industry must lead from the way rising from the ashes like a phoenix. And today we are going to look at some of the new applications, usages, and new markets for stainless steel that will enable us to the journey of recovery. Some of these will achieve increased consumption base, regain lost markets, create new development initiatives, an import substitution in tune with our Make in India theme, and which is also now Atmanirbhar. I would like to first play a small video before I start the main presentation. Just give me a minute, please. I will like to share that. I need to go to the screen to share that.
You can minimize the screen, open the presentation, and start playing it.
No, I started the presentation. I think that you could see some slides, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I want to share. I'm not getting that. I'm not getting that.
Yeah, go to the slideshow option and you can start the.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it. Yeah. It's a very short video. Thank you. This is something which is very new, and if this is used, this technology is used in India, there is a huge potential to use the stainless steel clad PVC pipe. Now I'll go back to my presentation again. Now, just now we were talking quite a bit about this, and Mr. Valaria was talking, and there was a question from Jagdamba as well. Now, the tri-ply at the moment, the tri-ply blanks are being imported, as somebody rightly said, from our very difficult neighbor and from other countries. And because of the duties, those tri-ply blanks are very expensive. So it would be ideal if the tri-ply sheets can be produced in India indigenously. And there is why we are bringing out this is even today in India, the largest consumer of stainless steel, as it was pointed out earlier in this webinar, continues to be the utensil sector. And tri-plies are also being used in Russia for point blank applications. And of course, they have the advantages as being seen here. And So I think there's a very big potential for this. Stainless steel quality control order, which was issued by the Ministry of Steel, Government of India, has actually enabled the standardization of grades, creating discipline in production and distribution. This is a very progressive step taken by the Government of India to ensure that all stainless steel materials used and produced in India are conforming to Bureau of Indian Standard specifications, some of which are listed below. Most of the foreign mills have also got accreditation for BIS, and I think it has streamlined the the industry, and I think it's a very good thing which has happened. Stainless steel in geysers. Long back, stainless steel was used generously for drums in these. However, it was discontinued. But if we can develop correct grades of duplex stainless steel for use in these geysers, both electric as well as gas, then we can avoid the use of anode, which creates problems, as you can read, because there is odor in the water, because the zinc anode is used to prevent corrosion. Now, we've talked about automobile sector, transportation, use of hydrogen in transportation. Probably what was not touched upon was use of electric vehicles in transportation. However, as of now, India's car production from 1950 to 2019 has gone up tremendously. And even now, the petrol and diesel cars are going to stay. So this gives a huge potential for the use of exhaust systems, including catalytic converters. In India, some grades like 409L and other grades are being used for automobile exhaust systems. But in addition, from some of the countries, we are getting grades which are being imported. Now, if those grades could be indigenized, it is a big boost for the Indian stainless steel industry, because that much of volume can be produced here. And approximately the market size could be somewhere around 100,000 tons a year at the moment. Agricultural use. I think Mr. Vijay Sharma and Mr. Pahuja touched upon this segment. And there are a large number of vehicles in agricultural use, mainly being tractors. There's a huge market for tractors. And I think the figures last year indicate close to about 900,000 tractors being made in India. We're talking most of these things in context to the Indian stainless steel market only. Now, there are ways and means to enlist stainless steel, because there is a move to specify the specific emission norms for these vehicles. And it would be ideal if the exhaust system, including the catalytic converters, get specified in stainless steel, because this will give a boost to the stainless steel industry. Stainless steel in water distribution. There is an article which was recently published just about a month back, that stainless steel BIS is going in for standard for water distribution. And if stainless steel pipes can be included in the standard for water distribution, I think it will be a very great boost to the stainless steel industry. This is what we saw at the beginning of the presentation. And this is the PVC clad stainless steel pipe, the composite pipe. And this PVC clad stainless steel pipe is not only cost effective, it is more hygienic, easy to fabricate and install, and has higher strength and greater life. There are the advantages which are given here, technical advantages of this pipe over CPVC pipe or PVC pipe. Now, there are a lot of PVC pipe manufacturers in this country who can also use this technology and convert if they are convinced about this, then we can increase the use of stainless steel industry. And they can also go in for making these without much of an expensive capital expenditure. Sorry. Now, overseas, a lot of stainless steel is being used in the marine applications. You can see the hull of yachts and ships and the structural members. They're all being used in duplex stainless steel. A study says in one of the papers that there is a 20% saving in fuel for the duplex hull and duplex parts. Now, if we can do this in Indian stainless steel industry, I'm sure there's a huge potential for this. The industry would benefit and the stainless steel industry would benefit. This is a very difficult thing. Recently, I attended a webinar on composite panels, and I think I was one of the few from the stainless steel industry who was there. There was a lot of discussion on various composite panels, including ACP, plastic panels, and so on. But there was hardly any discussion on the fire safety. In fact, I don't know whether there are regulations also. But if we use 3D printed colored stainless steel or plain stainless steel sheet with fire-resistant thermal insulation coating, this can replace the use of plastic composite material for exterior paneling in the multi-story buildings, and of course, improve the fire safety, because there is no other material which can match stainless steel in fire safety. I think there was a question from somewhere where somebody was asking about the aluminum as compared to stainless steel in the fire safety on this webinar. This is once again a new application which is used overseas with a new welding technology to coat thin stainless steel on carbon steel pipes. This combines the best properties of stainless steel and carbon steel. Of course, this can be used for interior applications and architecture. So you get the corrosion resistance of stainless steel with high strength carbon steel, and the price is lower. And you can maintain the aesthetics by using the stainless steel coating. We were recently in this webinar sometime back talking about wider width material. Yes, wider width material is ideal for a lot of fabrication. And I think the Midhani CMD talked about setting up a 3,000 meter plant for the plates. But here we're talking about coils. And in India, the maximum width of coils, say below 4 mm, is up to 1,500 or 1,600. Globally, only 3 plants make 2,000 mm width coils. Of course, Mr. Rajiv Sharif from Autobombu mentioned about this. And a lot of applications do need this. However, the laser welding of coil is an ideal thing because it is technically superior and thinner gauges to use coil welding rather than to use 2,000 millimeter width coil, which at this minute has to be imported. And there are technical advantages of laser welding, and you can actually go beyond the width. You can do laser welding of 1,500 mm width coils and get 3,000 millimeter width, and you can have an online cut to length, etc. Some of these finishes, including the 2F dull finish for metro and double embossed finishes, used to be imported. They're still being imported, and because of high price and existing duties, I think these are very expensive. And it will be a big boost to Indian stainless steel industry if these were to be produced indigenously. We are a consulting organization. We do technical support. We do training. And at the moment, we are doing a lot of online training for some of our clients. And we can also do consulting on various applications, including grades, quality parameters, finishing, etc. We support on process optimization as well. Finally, thank you all for being patient. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rao. I did not realize a consultant would go into so much of depth on a subject. So my special thanks to you. It may be my misconception, but I always have a feeling that consultants are superficial. So in a while, I found a consultant who's not superficial.
Thank you.
So it was great having you on board to share your experiences and that of the industry. And I'm sure steelmakers like Mr. Vijay Sharma would definitely be looking at your advice and consultancy in the days and years ahead. With that, I would like to know if anyone has a question for Mr. Rao.
And I think I kept up the time limit too.
Yeah, you save time 1 second.
Excellent.
You finish within time.
Excellent.
You saved me more than 30 seconds.
Excellent.
So it was well within time. Let me now move on to our next speaker, which is Mr. Anish Bansal, Managing Partner of Maven AB Inox LLP. Mr. Bansal, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just trying to share my screen.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Firstly, I would like to thank ISDA and Steel and Metallurgy for making me a part of this esteemed and experienced group of panelists. This is a wonderful opportunity. I would like to thank the panelists who have come before me for mentioning the MSME sector and telling what the MSME sector, how MSME sector is important. But I would like to stress one point on Sharma ji's just mentioned about 200 series. So why 200 series being invented in India but being commercially exploited in China is because it was the lack of MSME sector of India that we were not able to exploit the commercial benefits of this steel fully. So we would like the support of the bigger players and the bigger organization to actually exploit the commercial benefits. So I'll just quickly move on with my presentation first. So I'll first talk about the markets. I'll only be focusing my points based on the MSME sector, which is the pata industry, hollowware industry, and specifically pipe and tube industry. So my inputs will be more or less based on that. And there are regional, this COVID, like Sharmaji rightly pointed out, we are post-lockdown. We are still not post the pandemic right now. So there will be a regional differences in the inputs. Maharashtra being the worst hit and North being getting the better of the situation in these terms. So when the markets opened in May, there was a major gap in demand and supply. The supply side was majorly affected due to night curfews. There was an exodus of laborers moving out of the cities, and demand, which was the demand pipeline was completely empty, given that there was an abrupt lockdown that was established in the country during the end of March. So this enabled us a little bit, this because we were very apprehensive during the lockdown, and this enabled us a little bit so that we didn't have any inventory losses. We were able to get a fair price, a fair margin for the products we were selling. But this demand was only 60% of the pre-COVID level. And since our productions were at 40% of the pre-COVID level, we were able to exploit it to some extent. As we moved ahead to the months of June, August, and now we are into September, we are seeing that the demand has slowly crept below the supply point right now. And that is where my apprehension lies, because as an entrepreneur, I've always focused on my top line. We have always believed that if we follow the top line, the bottom line, the net profits will follow. But now is the time then that we do not focus on the top line. We should focus on the bottom line. No doubt, both of them will be severely hit, but they don't necessarily need to be hit by the same percentage. And even in countries like China, where steel producers have already declared cutting down production, and I think Autocompo also mentioned in their presentation, in these countries, the mandate comes from the government and it is easier. But right now, in a country like India, this entirely lies on us. We need to make sure that we do not overfill the market right now. It will be catastrophic in my opinion, because the fundamentals are strong. The ferroalloys are moving at a steady pace. Nickel is increasing, chrome is increasing, coke is increasing, and the demand is decreasing. So we are moving towards a cost push inflation right now. And if we overfill the market will crumble. So it's a request from my side to the organized sector, to the primary producers also, to help create an ecosystem which includes the MSME sector, which considers the MSME production also as a part of the production of India, and have your production and economies of scale lined according to the demand. Because we as small entrepreneurs, with the lack of finances that we have, we cannot take the majority of the hit right now. And it's a link, it's a chain. Everyone is connected to each other. So the production targets need to be curtailed in this. Secondly, what Balaria ji also mentioned, the major money that flows into the system, the major demand that flows into the system is from the bottom of the pyramid. Now that bottom of the pyramid, the shops, the retailers, the wholesalers, the customers are actually not going to the market. There is literally zero footfall in a metal market since it is not an essential commodity. So stainless steel as a commodity, as a finished product, is very late to the e-commerce industry. And we should make all the efforts to be a part of the e-commerce industry right now. We should deliver the solutions to the doorsteps, taking in mind our friends down the chain. We do not need to surpass them. We can partner with them. Our dealers, our wholesalers, we need to partner with them, share the benefits, and deliver the solution, an entire package to the customer, which will in turn create a lot of demand right now. My next point is regarding efficiency. This is a major problem with our industry. Since we have been growing at a steady rate of 15%, I think for pipe and tube industry, I would say it's probably more than 15%. So we are lacking in identifying the bottlenecks and skill training our workforce. Our workforce is accustomed to a similar pattern of working. I'll take a small example. The major bottleneck for P&T is pipe and tube is polishing and packaging. And there is literally zero skill training done in that department. You will be surprised to know that China uses 50% of the workforce in these departments as compared to us, and their output is much more. The only reason is that our labor is not trained, and we cannot expect our laborers to get training themselves. They probably start working at a young age of 15, and they want to earn for their family. The onus lies on us, the manufacturers. For that, we can take support from companies like JSL, who do a lot of skill training program, and other primary manufacturers, and we can have these workshops in localized area. Like a Delhi cluster can have a workshop, 7-day workshop. A Hisar cluster can have a 7 days workshop for training the workforce. That will increase our efficiency, increase our output, not only for the present, but for the future. And the benefit of this will be multifold. My last point, especially for hollowware and pipe and tube segment, is when we talk about government intervention, when I was invited to this panel, there was a specific point that what do we expect from the government? We should never expect freebies from the government, for a simple reason that our government cannot afford to give us freebies. This is very clear. I think our government has done enough, but what we need to do is government sensitization. We need to tell since stainless steel is a small industry as a percentage of our GDP, so they will not take a step on their own. But if we sensitize them, and I'm telling you this from my personal experience, they are very, very proactive right now. They are very, very proactive right now. And if we tell them what is happening, how the companies in Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, and now for hollowware, Bangladesh and Nepal are sending all the finished products to India, they will listen. They will listen. We are MSME and they are supporting vocal for local right now. So but the initiative has to come from us together. That is my request to all the manufacturers right now. And before summing up, I have a few points taken from the panelist point. Dr. Jha from Midhani, especially, you have talked about how you're doing a lot of R&D, and there are a lot of products that are coming in. I request you to involve the MSME sector in this R&D. We can do a lot of work. Our USP is that we can do customization at small levels. Our furnaces can take a heat of 4 tons, 5 tons. And that customization is only possible at an MSME level. As a company, as JK Group, we are launching a new product. We'll be making CR up to 12 mm in thickness. So, which is literally not possible in a lot of countries. We talk about a lot of inefficiencies in Pata industry, but Pata industry has its own benefits in these regards. And if companies like Midhani can involve us in these R&D setups, we will help India grow. We can be a part of this growth. We can be a part of this exercise. We were talking about the green initiative. Mr. Collins also talked about the green initiative and how we should move towards green energy. Now, again, I will say that our MSME sector does not have the right exposure. I will give you a small example. Recently, due to the pollution norms, we had shifted to IGL gas for annealing. But since we have restriction of space, we cannot increase our furnace lengths. We cannot do that. The calorific value of gas is very less. Now we need guidance from the seniors, the associations, the international associations to actually take inputs and make this a success. Sir, I request you that do not consider MSME sector as a 250 or different manufacturers. Consider MSME sector as one company with 250 directors. And that is how we all can collectively grow, sir. And I will end with the last slide that our industry is growing. Maybe we'll have a negative growth this year, and we should have a negative growth this year so that our bottom lines are not affected. But next year we will make it up. We'll definitely make it up. And there's enough of pie for everyone to eat. We don't need a dog eat dog world here. And thank you for all the primary manufacturers to being there and being supporting us. And thank you again to ISDA and Steel and Metallurgy for this initiative. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you once again, Mr. Bansal, and saving my 4.5 minutes. And besides, you covered the segment which Mr. Vijay Sharma mentioned time and again. Without support to MSME sector, we cannot think of 5 trillion economy. We cannot think of an economy where everything will be hunky-dory. So that's the key link to our entire chain. The MSME sector must grow, and for all support that the MSME sector needs, we fortunately have a very proactive Minister of MSME, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, who came to one of our webinars, and he mentioned clearly that Ministry of MSME is willing to give all support so that you get a chance. Today you are MSME, tomorrow you will be a bigger company. I mean, so the growth of the MSME sector is very, very, very significant in an economy like ours. We are dependent on it.
I would like to again point out, I have had this a personal experience, and Mr. Sharma ji was personally involved in that experience. We have had a very proactive response from the government. All we need to do is point them to the right direction. That is all we need to do.
Right, Mr. Bansal, there is a message which I would like to read out from Mr. Mohini Kelkar, Grandmaster. China uses a lot of automation at MSME level. My company, Grandmaster, can support entire stainless steel industry in polishing automation. We have complete range from semi-automatic to fully automatic machines. We can hold webinars in various pockets as needed. So this is from Mr. Mohini Kelkar, and I'm happy to note that the partners of MSME are coming forward. I'm sure, SAIL has a very good R&D unit in the form of RDCIS in Ranchi. Most of you are aware. So RDCIS. Then we have enough government laboratories available. Institute of Minerals and Materials Technology, which is in Bhubaneswar, earlier known as RRL. So I'm in touch with the director of IMMT. So I'm sure we'll in the next webinar we do on MSME with Mr. Sharma, if he helps, we'll definitely bring the MSME units in the next stainless steel webinar, because I planned a series on stainless steel, and I believe we have a lot of players from the MSME sector whom we should get involved. Mr. Sharma, your comments on this aspect, please.
Yeah, very well. Yeah, very well spoken, Anish. But you see, I have certain concerns on how we are trying to help MSME apart from talking nice in webinars like this. One is the immediate short-term level playing field required for those products which MSME wants. So that is a short term. There definitely like primary producers also, they want a short term like that till the time something more sustainable happens. But I think for MSME, there are critical areas related with the long-term sustainability of this sector. For example, when this package was announced, 3.75 lakh crore, I had been interacting with MSME a lot. 29% said कि हमें कोई फायदा नहीं हुआ. 43% said फायदा हुआ. Balance said we cannot say. This 3.75 lakh crore rupees package is a big number also. It's a very small number also. But a MSME who perhaps wants 2 lakhs, 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, he is not getting into that first bus. He is talking in webinars. Then finally he misses all the buses. Unfortunately, this is scattered. This is fragmented. They need support. Maybe I will request Pahuja Sahab, can we have a MSME chapter within the bigger, so that a focus is there? And I also request people like Anish, can we have some MSME associations which is much above the product, like Bartan mein aisa hai, Bartan ke liye, tube ke liye, to hame karna hi karna hai. But wherein skill development, automation, which is very critical, Mrs. Kelkar also referred about it, IR 4.0 solutions, analytical things, those are the areas where things cannot happen like that. In last 4 years, we have tried to train 9,000 fabricators. Now we have been able to get hand-holding with Skill India. So rightly so, we need to have a separate, but bringing 500 MSMEs, 1,000 MSMEs in one of the webinars, and then talking like this, then going back to our own offices, I have a slightly different view. We should have a think tank of like-minded people who can spare time, who are energetic, and we need to do it very, very quickly. That is my view.
Thank you so much, Sharma Sahab. I think Anish will also completely agree with you. There's no point having a webinar and discussing something which we cannot follow up on, which we cannot ensure action. So with your help, Sharma Sahab, I'm sure we'll be able to get all the, major players in the MSME sector. If some are left out, we'll do it in another series. But we have to continuously pursue this with the MSME sector. And, as you rightly mentioned, it's not only the Bartan segment, but we have to move to the other smaller players who perhaps are not even recognized. They may be playing a even smaller role. But in an ocean, every drop counts. So we have to bring the entire drop together, as Anish rightly mentioned. If it is 250 companies, it is 250 directors in one company. So we have to treat it as a part of our family and a part of our chain. And with Pahuja Sahab, we'll take this up seriously to see that we can bring in, even if we have to do research, even companies who do not have a proper website, we will bring them to the forum. We will try and identify them. Maybe Pahuja ji would like to add to this, how we can bring, let's say players who are not in the, so to say, primary platform to be easily identified. So we have to identify them and bring them to the platform. That's the challenge. Pahuja sir, aap unmute kar le, please.
Yeah, we have been trying that, and since we know that 40% of our industry is in the MSME, our attention is always focused there. And that's why when we discussing this webinar, we said that MSME must be represented. And whatever help we are trying to, we'll try to organize, we'll do it. Maybe what Mr. Sharma said, probably more needs to be done. They have to be brought together. And we will certainly work in this area.
One small comment, and today is the best time, Honorable Minister Shri Gadkari ji. He is such a positive man. We only should be clear what we need from him. It is not like that ki just bas kuch chahiye, kuch chahiye. Chahiye kya? They are ready. And the bureaucracy is also very ready. Anish, we have been experiencing this in a very positive way.
We have. Especially in the last 2-3 weeks, we have seen this.
Yeah.
We have to be sure what we want from the government and what we can do ourselves, as Anish has said.
Absolutely.
I just got a message from Rakhi that she is having an unstable some connectivity issues. So we'll see if she can come back, or else we'll have to leave her out. with that, we'll now move on to our one before last speaker, Mr. Anil Mittal from Mittal Precision High Tech Steel, another from the user segment. Mr. Anil Mittal, can you hear us? Anilji, am I audible? Anilji? Ankit, can you see if Mr. Anil Mittal's connected? He is there, but
He's there in the panel, but I think he's away from the screen or something like that.
Mr. Anil Mittal, can you hear us? Mr. Mittal, I think he's there, but perhaps he's maybe away from the screen.
Yes.
So what we'll do is, in the meantime, if there are any Q&As, Ankit, can you just take it up? Any questions?
So we have a question for Bhalaria ji, and the question is from Mr. Pavan Kansal, and he wants to know what are your ideas to fulfill the Indian requirements of skill, technology, and sales and marketing on the national level.
I think Bhalaria ji has left, but I can't see him.
Yes,
I can't see.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, seems like he has left. So
yeah.
So
next question.
Yeah, so the next question is for all the panelists. It's an open question to everyone. So the question is it possible to add tungsten carbide to austenitic stainless steels to increase the melting point of the final product for high pressure, high temperature, better thermal resistance, and work hardenability so that BCC lattice transforms into a FCC lattice structure? Anyone from the panel would like to take that question?
I think Mr. Vijay Sharma would like. No?
Mr. Collins, would you like to take the question?
Yes, because I've seen that question already, and I was a little confused because if you have an austenitic steel, you already have a fully face-centered cubic lattice. So I'm not sure if the question is rightly written, and I'd responded in text to say I didn't understand the question. Could there be a bit more information, please? Because it's an unusual question.
Is he there? Is he there in the attendees list? Can you promote him to a panel so that he can ask the question?
No, I think he has left because I cannot find him.
Any other questions? Maybe Mr. Taneja would like to take that question. Yeah. Taneja, you would like to answer to that?
No, I will not be able to answer to that.
Okay, so the next question we have is, can there be technology upgradation fund available from MSME Department of Government of India?
I would like to take this. See, there are a lot of subsidies and there are a lot of things that are available, but we cannot expect freebies from the government. We have had some extensive discussion with the departments, and see, we need to understand that there are a lot of nuances in the market, and that is why the government cannot have an open policy. But they do subsidize machinery and new technology that is coming in. But we need to realize that is that technology just a copy of what is happening in the global market? Is that technology even useful? My suggestion is, rather than importing technology, we should develop technology in our own country. We have a platform like ISDA. I think Mr. Rohit himself is a very, very innovative person, and there are teams available. So develop our own technology according to the Indian atmosphere, according to what Indian manufacturers need. We have space constraint. So develop technology according to the space constraint. And for that, then we need to go to the government that we are doing an R&D. We are a cluster, we are a group of 50 manufacturers, and we are doing this, and government will definitely support us. This is my take from what I have discussed with the various departments in the government.
Okay, so we have another question specifically for you, Mr. Bansal. So the question is, Are SS tubes made only in BIS approved grades?
Not as of now. In commercial applications, there are two grades. One is 200 series and one is 300 series. 300 series is obviously covered under BIS, but the 200 series, which almost is 65% of the ABC sector, which is the biggest sector in pipe and tube industry, is not under the gambit of BIS. Discussions are going on, and hopefully by the end of this year, everything that is made in this industry, starting from the raw material till the finished product, will be BIS approved. Then we'll have standards for every stage. So that is my take. I think Mr. Rohit can elaborate further.
I would like to pitch in on this. You see, BIS is a matter of prestige for Indian government and also Indian products, and it is an evolving subject. When we started with BIS 2-3 years back, it was, perhaps Rohit can add me, a few limited grades. So with the initiative being led by ISDA, today I believe it is more than 125-30 grades, and some grades are under evaluation. So very soon, those grades will also be included in the BIS, because we, as well as the government, wants the way there are international standards, and why not a BIS acceptable worldwide? Rohit, maybe you can add.
Very rightly said, sir. It's an evolving process, and for the grades which are already established worldwide, they have found its way into our standards also, and it has increased to 109 grades now. But those grades who are which has to be evaluated first are being evaluated, and with the proper evaluation, it will feature in standards in times to come. So yes.
And one more thing, Sharma Sahab, the next discussion we have with the MSME sector, I would request if you could identify someone from BIS whom we should get as a speaker, who will be able to revisit the specific codes and also look at the possibilities where all BIS can actually ensure that we do not have substandard material existing in parallel format in terms of imports.
I would rather, Nirmala, I will suggest that in the first one, we should invite somebody from the MSME ministry, maybe some JS and or AS level, and we should also invite someone in the panel of the banks who are dealing with the support which government has extended to MSME, because I am very sure MSE people do not know how to get that support which is being extended by the government. So first is they need immediately sort of a glucose. किसी को 2 लाख चाहिए, 5 लाख चाहिए, then yes, of course. And also before that, because there are possibility of MSME is also not very clear कि उनको चाहिए क्या. Maybe a smaller forum, Anish, you and of course we are with you and ISDA, so that we are very clear ki what is our right wish list and in what time frame it can be availed from the government, and what we commit to the government, what we can do.
Along with that, we'll try and see if we can get someone from Iron and Skill Development, Skill Development Council, and MSME, along with banks as well as bodies like SIDBI, which are Small Industries Development Bank of India. SIDBI also plays an important role, and they fund projects. SIDBI I know for sure because I have worked with SIDBI on stainless steel welding workshops. They funded one of the workshops I did on stainless steel welding, where they were more than willing to extend their support. So I'm sure with bodies like SIDBI and others, we can take some of the banks along, and so that financial support, which is so very important for the MSME to survive, we'll have them along. So I'll keep that in mind, and Ankit, just remind me that we'll have to get BIS, we'll have to get Ministry of MSME at least at JS level, someone at JS level. If it is additional secretary, better. And along with that, the banks. So these three will have to ensure that we get at least a few of the players. So with that, we'll now move on to the, I would say, the last part of our webinar today, which is first summing up by our session chairman.
I think Mr. Anil Mittal has joined back.
Oh, he has joined back?
Yeah, Mr. Mittal, can you hear us?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, Mr. Mittal, your time starts now.
Yeah, I have very short comment to make. Like we were discussing about support from Ministry for MSME sector. So, as a manufacturer of pipe and tubes and pipes, we definitely look support from Ministry, even for the products of pipes and tubes, stainless steel pipes and tubes. So, we'd like to work on. We'd like to know what Ministry can offer us for manufacturing the products from the tubes and pipes.
Mr. Mittal, sorry to interrupt you. Just wanted to let you know we cannot see your video.
I have some, actually my laptop have got some problem with the video, so I'm not able to, yeah.
No,
Okay.
not a problem.
Sorry
Not a problem.
Continue.
Please continue, Mr. Mittal, if you have anything to add.
Well, I mean that was what actually we would like to know. Like we would also like a support from the manufacturer, and also what Ministry can offer us if we try to diversify it into products from tubes and pipes, stainless steel tubes and pipes. That's the point I would like to mention.
Okay, point taken, and we'll take this up as well. And offline, I'll discuss this with Mr. Pahuja and Mr. Sharma, how best we can see that we get the other agencies involved with regard to your application as well. I mean, in terms of the user segment of pipes and tubes. So
Right.
we'll get them involved as well. And
Right. Thank you so much.
with that, I think we'll ask Mr. Subrata Mitra, our session chairman today, to kindly sum up the proceedings before we move on to Rohit for his concluding remarks and proposing his vote of thanks. So over to you, Mr. Subrata Mitra.
Thank you, Nirmala, and thanks to all the panelists, esteemed panelists, for giving a very, very value-added talk, and where a lot of things were discussed. Starting, first speaker, keynote speaker, Mr. Tim Collins from World Stainless Steel Association, Secretary General. He shared his views on how to move forward with time and reduce carbon footprint in this post-pandemic era. And he stressed upon the need for embracing digital technology, cost of installation and maintenance of the installations importance was cited by him, and use of duplex stainless steel was also stressed upon. He pointed out a very important thing about the hydrogen economy, which is supposed to come in the future. Hydrogen economy will help in moving away from fossil fuel, which is actually the source of all CO2 emission in the world. So the possible areas of augmentation of the stainless steel market is transportation and use of austenite grades, high strength corrosion resistance products, and recycling, and need of a collective effort all through for recycling will further help in improving stainless steel. And use of stainless steel in bridge construction was also highlighted by him. Then the second speaker was Mr. Pahuja of Indian Stainless Steel Association. He gave a very good statistical outlay of the stainless steel industry. We are actually 3.5% by volume and 12% by value. The volume-wise, it is only 3.5%, but value-wise, it is much more in India. We are the second largest producer. A lot of statistics were shared. Stainless steel growth is more than 5%, CAGR over 8% over the last 20 years. In fact, there is a big jump in stainless steel consumption in India from 2010 to 20. Global linkage with global market has to be established, and still 2/3 of the stainless steel products it's being exported. That's a good thing. So the new sectors are opening up in infrastructure and energy sector, and his talk, he feels the positiveness of the stainless steel industry in the country. Third speaker, Mr. Vijay Sharma, of, Director General Stainless, the largest producer in India, spoke about the pandemic challenges that are being faced by the industry. Auto sector is reviving. Utensils, auto and MSMEs are slowly reviving and coming out of the pandemic, not totally, but planning, but a lot of efforts are being taken. This suggests different forum for MSMEs. This topic has been raised by many of the panelists. Different forum for MSMEs. The logistics at this time is causing a big challenge for the profitability and effectiveness and efficiency of the stainless industry. Gave certain import figures. Only about 1% of the quality, not in India, is making practically all the grades of stainless steel, except perhaps a meager 1%, which is not in the supply manufacturing list and capability list. Utensils and welded tubes have a big market, and lot has to be done. And he spoke about the high nickel grade stainless steel, which is replacing the use of nickel, costly nickel. Fourth speaker was Dr. Sanjay Kumar, CMD Midhani. He highlighted what are the initiatives and research works being carried out in Midhani. Not research really, a lot of high-grade stainless products are being manufactured there or being planned to manufacture. Talked about various wide variety of stainless steel, including maritime steel, which is being tried. Nickel-free stainless is the goal, as spoken earlier. Substitution of nickel by nitrogen, he also spoke about it. Need for innovation was highlighted, which Midhani is going ahead with a lot of innovations. And he raised the difficulty in making large weights, plates and sheets. Stressed upon the fabrication sector and the further market for aerospace and defense sector, which Midhani is working on. The fifth speaker was Mr. Sanjeev Taneja, Executive Director, Salem Steel Plant. He has joined recently, about a year and a half back. He has taken charge of Salem. He also spoke about the vast application of stainless steel products, which Salem is very much in, and the economy is slowly reaching a pre-COVID level. Of course, Tamil Nadu has been somewhat badly affected, so that is creating the problem of working hand. And Salem is facing COVID-related problems to a reasonable extent, to a substantial extent. During lockdown, one good thing has been done. Duplex stainless steel has been stabilized, and the possibility of stainless steel use in construction sector was highlighted by him. Sixth speaker was Mr. Sherry of Autocompo. Spoke about, again, he gave the challenges being faced due to COVID everywhere. Brief about Autocompo was presented, company, and their pioneers in stainless steel making for many years. More than 85 to 89% of stainless steel products of Autocompo are recycled, which helps in lowering the carbon footprint. Impact on orders and measures adopted was shown. That was a very good in his presentation. What impact on the orders execution was shown, as well as the measures adopted to rectify the situation was also discussed. Customers' feedback on COVID-19 was also presented during this pandemic time was presented. Demand, according to him, is coming back. That's a good scenario. He insisted upon the sharing of knowledge by all the stainless steel makers. And again, Autocompo may not be in the 200 series or 304 grade series, only they are in high-end materials stainless steel market. The seventh speaker was Mr. Yatish Kumar of Braithwaite. Braithwaite is doing good. Gap between designer, he stressed on the reduction in gap in thought between the designer and the grade and the implementers need to be lowered. The areas he stressed upon was service reconditioning, cost difference between volume and value addition was stressed, talked on the railway initiatives which Braithwaite is going in a big way, various railway applications for stainless steel, which they're in the business now. The eighth speaker was Mr. Hitendra Valeria, MD, Valeria Metalcraft. Whoever handles and his talk was nice. Whoever handled pandemic nicely ultimately wins. That means during this period, taking care of everything, the workmen and all the essentials, ultimately will win. Closure is no solution. Houseware demand is picking up. Cookware is increasing. Talked about worldwide marketing, which China is doing and which India should also increase. China is having worldwide symposiums and various seminars and maybe workshops. So that should also be done by India. International demand is coming back. The plastic use is shifting towards stainless steel use. That's a good thing to know. Metro and railway using more of stainless steel. This company produces 8,000 different products, and it's a nearly 150-year-old company, and he is the seventh generation who is in the helm of the affairs of this company. Ninth speaker was Mr. N.P. Rao of Pegasus Consulting, MD. He gave a presentation on new applications, new markets, and new products. Various areas of stainless steel use like geysers, auto exhaust, 409 grades are used in autos, stainless steel, BIS standard of stainless steel he spoke about, stainless steel PVC clad stainless steel to replace plain PVC. PVCs are replacing plain PVCs used for fire safety, and he also highlighted what Pegasus Consulting can do for stainless steel industry. 10th speaker was Anish Bansal, managing partner of Marvin AV Inox. He presented the market situation, demand supply scenario, identifying problems and solutions and efficiency. His idea was not to oversell or overproduce. Increase of again the nickel-less stainless was highlighted. He stressed upon the need of bringing the MSME sector in one fold. That was a good idea because MSME is the biggest prime mover of stainless steel in India. All the MSMEs, maybe 250 MSMEs, should be consolidated in one forum so that knowledge can be shared and skill training can be shared. We have to handle the trade of imports. Government sensitization is a need. Unless we do something to consolidate ourselves, there is threat of stainless steel product imports from Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, Bangladesh, and Nepal. His company can take heat of 4 to 5 tons. Again, he stressed upon the need to consolidate MSMEs. The last speaker, in fact, he had some issues. Mr. Anil Mittal, MD of Mittal Precision, he sought support from the ministry for making pipes and tubes, which has a big market. How to go ahead with more pipe and tube and the challenges being faced by that industry. What the ministry can offer was his question put up to this webinar, which we think we can at some point of time clarify his position through another seminar or through an interaction. So it was a very value-added discussion, well discussed by eminent panelists, a lot of experienced people, and thank you for all the inputs.
Thank you, Subratha, for again summing it up so very well. We well, the rest of the job will be carried forward by Rohit, who will not only analyze the day's proceedings. We have been here for last 3.5 hours, exactly 3.5 hours. So these 3.5 hours will be analyzed by Rohit and his final comments from Indian Stainless Steel Development Association, our partner and co-organizer of this event. So Rohit had a lot to contribute. Before Rohit, you propose a vote of thanks. Let me personally thank you, Mr. Vijay Sharma ji and Pahuja ji for the excellent support which ISDA gave in organizing this. Had it not been ISDA together with us, we would not have been able to reach out today. So special thanks to Indian Stainless Steel Development Association and Mr. Vijay Sharma, who actually, I would say, spearheaded this by initially asking me to move ahead, and with his blessings and support, I'm sure we will go ahead and ISDA will continue to join hands and carry this series forward.
Yes.
So over to you, Rohit.
Thank you so much. I would like to be as brief as possible because it's already very late now, and you have been sitting patiently waiting for this to end. Anyway, just to start with the respected panelists and participants, before I propose a vote of thanks, I would like to reiterate on behalf of Indian Stainless Steel Development Association that today's discussion has been quite insightful and will definitely pave the way for analyzing the current situation as well as future plans. Just to talk about future plans, I would like to very briefly say that ISDA with its members are doing a lot of has taken up a lot of initiatives to see how the market grows, not just during the pandemic but beyond the pandemic. And when I say beyond the pandemic, it is just not I'm talking about 3 or 6 months. I'm talking about 5 years down the line, because our focus cannot be short term, it has to be long term. Just to quickly summarize in points what we are trying to do for the development and for the growth of our domestic industry is educational programs. See, we have been discussing over this webinar. It's a digital platform, and we have this new opportunity of digital platforms and digitally connecting with people to educate people. And stainless steel still needs a lot of education. Like CMD Brathwaite has already said that we still have to educate people down the line why stainless steel is a better engineering material. It's just not for kitchen utensils and pots and pans. So we will be doing our own task with greater emphasis on these areas. Standardization, our renewed focus is on standardization, because standardization helps in creating market, and there are live examples. I could have given a presentation on that, but I'll quickly move on. And just to say that the industries which need which are fighting against corrosion, which has to be hygienic, these industries need standardization. Still there are materials being used in these industries which are not stainless steel and which has to be 100% stainless steel. So by standardization, by the process of policy like FSSAI we are approaching, and we would like to we like these industry to use more and more of stainless steel by default. Third, I would like to say end use segment growth. There are many end use segments which needs a lot of support from in not only industry but from associations and educational bodies to move forward for the development. Like say for the ABC sector, plumbing is one of the rising, stainless steel plumbing, and very rightly Pegasus Consulting Mr. NP Rao said that why only stainless steel pipes, you can clad it with PVC and then project it as a new material for plumbing. Water pipelines, there are many industry segments which Mr. Seri has also talked about. We need to reach out to them and educate better on stainless steel. There is very one important factor everybody emphasized on this, especially Mr. Vijay Sharma, that life cycle costing. We all talk about day in day night that stainless steel will be cheaper when we think of service life and do the life cycle costing. See, there are many tools available online to calculate life cycle costing, but the government also in their finance rule came up with a circular that any project which any industry is doing, including government, should think of life cycle cost as a part of their project charter. But it is not still being followed because with my limited interaction, I have found out that it is very difficult to calculate life cycle costing, and even best of the experts comes up with has to take a lot of assumptions while calculating life cycle costing. So ISDA is going to take this initiative to make a life cycle costing tool, which will be a kind of software where it will ease out for the people like project planners to calculate the life cycle costing. And the good thing about it is we are going to base it on not just some empirical formulas, but we will base it on the Indian standard. We have Indian standard for calculation of life cycle costing, which is very exhaustive and very good. So we'll base our tool on Indian standard, and then we'll request the government to incorporate it as a rule for the project charters and project management to include do the life cycle costing. So this will be a huge step which we will be taking, and we would like to complete this task by the end of this year. Another area where we would like to have a very we want to have an upper hand with the competing material is the technical queries. We have been discussing about workshops being done to educate people on policing side, workshops done to educate people even on people working heavy engineering. They need sometimes good technical information on welding aspects of certain grades of stainless steel. So ISDA would like to make a consortium of experts. One of the consultant firms like PGSS is there. So there are many people who have the knowledge. So we want to become the knowledge bank for the Indian industry which are using stainless steel, and one point solution for stainless steel knowledge house. So and we for that Mr. Seri's point was that we all must wear the hat of a marketeer, to become a promoter for the growth of stainless steel. Yes, we will do it. We are technical people also. We have people from marketing side also. We must join hands together to make it a success story. So without going further, taking much time, I directly go to the vote of thanks. At the outset, on behalf of Steel Metallurgy and ISDA, I would like to thank all the panelists who has taken out time from their busy schedule and has joined us here. Special thanks to Mr. Tim Collins, who has been patiently waiting and has joined us over 3.5 hours and has given quite a good insight which has already been summarized. Special thanks to all the panelists. I will not take all the names one by one, and for making this seminar successful. And although there are only 40 people left now, but I would like to thank all the participants, because they are the one who has been asking nice questions, and with their help, this program has become successful. We have hope that we will continue this good work and take this industry forward together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rohit. Thank you once again for a good, I would say, giving the next direction forward, where I'm sure ISDA will work closely with the industry to pick up the challenges and threats which exist for the industry. As you mentioned, welding is one. Stainless steel welding, as we all know, requires special skill. I did a couple of workshops with Indian Institute of Welding for stainless steel, so I'm aware where the challenge is. And I'm sure we will find good fabricators, good welders being developed closely with the help of ISDA in the course of time. And as I said, we will also get Indian skill development. Iron and steel sector has a special skill development council. So we will have to get the iron and steel sector skill development council involved in fabrication and welding workshops. And we could do this on a regional basis. First, region-wise, if Mr. Vijay Sharma helps us, we start with the north, east, west, and south. So, because one will not be enough to cover the entire nation. As they say, we live not in a country, but in a subcontinent. So we need to do regional focus and develop these fabricators and their skills. With that, I'll also special thanks to Tim Collins. And Tim, one help I'll need from you. We understand BSSA, British Stainless Steel Association, is very active. So if we could get a few speakers from BSSA to understand what kind of work BSSA is doing that be a great help or a learning lesson for Indian stainless steel industry as well. And I'm especially thankful to you on behalf of ISDA and Steel and Metallurgy. Mr. Pahuja, right from the beginning, wanted you, and he's been successful in inviting you, and you have been so kind to respond to him, even being a weekend holiday. And in Europe, we know, on weekends, no one works. So you sacrificed your, let's say, me time to give for the industry, which proves your dedication level, Tim. So thank you once again. And I wish everyone all the very best. And let me make a small announcement. We have a next webinar, which is again this Saturday, this weekend, which is on long products. So I'm expecting Rohit's support to get a stainless steel long product speaker for my long product webinar on Saturday. So Rohit, you must support me in getting at least a long product speaker.
Yeah, you are welcome, sir.
So on Saturday, we have the long products webinar starting at 4 p.m. With that, thank you everyone. Thank you, Mr. Mitra. Thank you, Vijay Sharma ji. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Rajiv Sherry, Pahuja ji, Mr. Taneja. Let me thank everyone. If I missed out anyone, Mr. NP Rao, and of course, Tim Collins and Dr. Sanjay Kumar Jha, who is also waiting and has been listening to us for the last 3.5 hours. Thank you so much, and bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Please keep. My job is to build relationships, so please keep in touch and let's meet very often.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.